Greetings, my pleasant viewers. Before I show the full unedited debate, because I was ostensibly insulting so badly that an extra 30 minutes had to be cut off, I would like to speak on a few things regarding this debate. It took me 7 days to get this because the live host Yusuf continually delayed this. Thank you at least for this introduction, Yusuf, but I can't speak on whether it was on purpose or not, but I'm willing to be charitable and say it wasn't. Firstly, I not only debated Agen, I also debated Fanatic Coptic, as you will see, for the first hour or so. Then I continued to debate Agen afterwards. I was muted a couple of times and the moderation was quite poor, especially in the case of others jumping in a couple of other times, which is expected since I went up in a live field with the Coptics. I'm going to cover really quickly the title of the video they uploaded, that they claimed I confessed, the people surrounding this video, and the accusations against my character. Firstly, the accusation that I profess two beings in Christ is wildly and laughably stupid. When I was asked, are there two beings in Christ, I denied it and asked for more clarification on what he meant by being. That's why I posed the question, do you think being is taken ipso facto to individual existence, which I proceeded to then deny that definition. He then asked, in any sense can it be said? I said, of course, and it's for the very reason that any man can assert an unconventionality as the signification for language. Hence, when they claim to profess two beings, it's equivalent to their Muslim counterparts telling a Trinitarian that they define God as a person, then asking the Trinitarian if they believe in three persons, and when answered with yes, they claim the Christian believes in three gods to conclude. This is quite frankly moronic to anyone that actually believes that, and not only this, but to my EO and Catholic bros, Aquinas answers this in question 17, article 2 of his third book, where someone poses the same question and quotes St. John of Damascus, saying that the same of two beings, if and only if it's understood in the sense to mean two qualities or two natures, because once again, language is subjective and words bear usually to the conventionality of the speaker, which is why I initially denied it. However, any speaker can assert their own definition for a word, like if I take flip-flops to be signified by a mug. So the assertion that I believe in two beings can essentially be quantified to this. Wayne believes being can be defined as nature. He believes that there are two natures in Christ, therefore he believes in two beings in Christ. My friends, this is circular and ends up straight back at the original claim of the Orientals, that I believe in two natures and therefore Nestorian. This assertion is just restating the original claim, not without sophistry of attempting to equivocate on the meanings of the one word. The second claim was that I confessed two hypostases, and this hinges upon me agreeing to the first definition of hypostases, a concrete reality that exists as an individual to species. What's more laughable about the blind followers of my interlocutor is that they didn't realize the entire point of the argument was to say that there were two definitions of hypostases invoked in the third anathema. Thus, that definition would have already been granted. Now, they can claim I failed to demonstrate that, yet the interlocutor, as soon as I said hypostasis is defined as concrete in particular at the start of the debate, also presupposed I'm obligated to accept that definition only, despite me already having an argument that I was to present opposed to this position. So if this is the case, then how could you presuppose your conclusion before my argument is presented? I explicitly made it clear hypostasis for the divine hypostasis is taken as concrete in particular, and the hypostasis for the human nature is taken abstract, species, universal, prior to the union. It's even worse, since the person accusing me himself confessed Nestorian belief that there are two concrete particulars prior to the union, and I mean concrete. Thirdly, the accusation that I quoted you know me as unintentionally is without a doubt a lie, and I can unequivocally prove this and the cowardice of this person. To explain the motivation for this was uploaded on the 6th of December, where I edited in call with many other people the video of Agen's polytheism. Now, the whole purpose, as you can see, was to get Orientals riled up to come and debate in my server to grow it. Now, Agen constantly claimed I quoted Eunomius and ran away from him, as you can see. The hilarious part is, we pinged him over 100 times to discuss it, and if it's such an embarrassing endeavor for me, why would it be so hard to prove on VC? Not only this, but we even pinged him in neutral servers many times, spammed it, and his own fanboys acknowledged it while he was sitting in VC and told him. What's even more embarrassing is that Meaty came to me, asked about it, I explained it to him, and he joined the VC with Agen to tell him and join VC with me. And Agen still continued to hide in his VC and propagate the lie. And want to know the reason why I couldn't join the VC he was in? Because I was banned prior on the 26th of November from his server. Now, here's the most embarrassing part. I have over 10 people actively watching me on that day make it in VC on the 5th, as shown by the logs and on CapCut, me sending the quote into chat to them, and multiple witnesses, and me screen sharing it to them when it was done. It's honestly just embarrassing how cowardly this person is, claiming I refused to talk to him, I unintentionally quoted Eunomius, I ran away. On the contrary, we pinged you in my server, in neutral servers like Christian University with two of your other goons, and you still ran away, and we even have proof that you saw it in your VC. Now, as for the quote, just to make it prompt, Nissa paragraphs before commends Eunomius for the very belief I am pushing and the trapped Agen failed to comprehend posterior to our discussion. It is not for what I affirm in the heresy of Eunomius's quote, since there is a nominal distinction affirmed to this subject, as he points out in Book 1, Chapter 8 against Eunomius. Eunomius affirms the distinction as would for Peter, Simon, and Cephas, as you can see here, as a nominal distinction. And many times he quotes Eunomius to affirm to a degree some truth in his statements. Now, then likewise he affirms a type of conceptual distinction, as he does in many other places, that the things have an identical criterion ipso facto right before the quote, claiming Eunomius's philosophy was excellent in profession. Thus, in a sort of distinction, there is a disagreement, but never in favor of Oriental pseudo-divine simplicity. So just as the one who demonstrates cowardice, as you have seen, enabled him sophistry to get his own fantasy concession, I will stick to reality and see it fitting to represent him as his lover and forefather Nestorius, who professed the same entailments of his position, that there's two individual particular concretes prior to the union, thus resulting in an accidental union. Now, I hope you enjoy and take an unbiased perspective to see the sophistry and concession of Nestorianism in this debate by the Copt himself, who idolizes Jordan Peterson.
The question, what do you mean by happen?
And the inability of Fanatic to reduce opposition and his arguments refuted. Enjoy and God bless.
Wayne is coming up. The top debate for the Catholics is coming up. Oba Wayne صلى عليه وسلم is coming up. هو قلتك Wayne سبحانه وتعالى is up اهو.
Yeah, one sec. Can you invite Elijah up just so we can stay up here? He's not gonna do anything.
Where is Elijah? Finn Elijah. Bring him.
Leon. Just let him up. He's not gonna say anything.
Yeah, I don't see him. Oh, I request, I invited me. Okay. Adam, let's discuss. Inshallah.
Yeah, let's discuss. Okay, go ahead.
Why do you guys remove Leon?
I have an argument against mere feces. Well, quote unquote, what you call mere feces.
Right, all right. I mean, I don't know how we should operate, because we also have an argument against Chalcedonian diaphysitism. So,
Are you talking about your two particular? Are you talking about your two particular arguments?
Yeah.
Hello.
We can hear you, Wayne.
Yes, I said the two particular problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So. You agree that this hinges upon two things having individual subsistences, because presumably the argument follows that two particulars result in two subjects in which would have two individual subsistences?
Yeah, can I ask you guys, what do you guys get out of these?
No.
Anna,
let Wayne finish.
Stop.
Let Wayne finish.
Someone
screen record this as well. Yalla, go, Wayne.
Yeah. So someone record this. Someone.
No, because Wayne's about the cookies bad. I've heard his argument. He's about the cookies. Yalla, go.
One second. Everyone be quiet. Fanatic Coptic. The argument goes as follows, right? That the two particulars are univocally understood, right? Between each other when it's applied to the human nature and the divine nature, and thus this results in two subjects, and thus this would result in two subsistences, which would be two hypostases, correct?
It's not necessarily two. We say it's going to be result in two individual concrete realities or two beings, and that's just going to
that's two individually subsistent hypostases. That's
going to be two individually subsistent hypostases. It's just an individual subsistence.
Okay, one second. Okay. So a particular is stated as that which goes from the generality of species to an individual, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And it's not contained within another thing which is particularized, correct?
No, you can have a non-self-subsistent particular.
I said subsistent, and that's not an individual. I said subsistent, and that's not an individual.
No, because you said it cannot exist within another individual. But I'm saying, you can have, for example, a particular hand. You can have, for example, a particular hand.
I know. I didn't say that. One second. Everyone heard me say that we're talking about self-subsistent things. Okay, so
self-subsistent things. That's correct. Then you're right. Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Sure. So, can you tell me how then this is even going to violate our doctrine, where we hold that only in existing of the divine hypostases, it gains...
Well, I'll tell you how.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because the problem is when you enumerate two after the union, right? It's going to have to entail two self-subsistencies. I'll tell you why. Because if one of them is not self-subsistent, What does that mean? It means it's united with the self-subsistent. But what does united mean? It means there's oneness, and so if there's unity, then there's going to be a one particular, not two particulars. But by saying that there are two-ness and there's not oneness, right? There's going to have to be separation, and if there's separation, then you have then the humanity is going to be self-subsistent. It's not going to be united anymore. So that's why there's going to be a contradiction. There's a contradiction in terms.
There's actually no contradiction, and I'm going to explain why. Yeah, I'm going to respond to that point. First of all, the position you just said is basically where two things gain individuality from the species in which they'd be separated. But I'm talking about subsistence remaining in the same hypostases by manner of only gaining.
But then they should be enumerated as one. You enumerate them as two, not one. That's the problem.
One second. That has nothing to do with it. I'm saying that the concatenation of accidents or the idioms to the thing which make it self-subsistent only result in one hypostasis.
But nature, but you're defining nature as a subsistence, right? So if you're saying that there's one, if you're saying that there's the human nature, this human subsistence is within the divine hypostases, right? Then there should be one nature, because per the definition of nature being a subsistence or an individuality of the generality, right? And so if there's one individual, right, at the end of the union, right, after the union, then you should enumerate them as one nature, because nature just means a subsistence. It means a particular. But by you enumerating two natures and you're defining nature as a particular, then you have two self-subsistences. Because if you had only one self-subsistence, you should have had an enumeration of one nature. That's the issue.
Well, one second. By self-subsistence, you just mean some individuality pertaining to the thing. We don't deny that. We say that the subsistence is grounded in one hypostasis. Now, the problem with what you're saying is that nature is going to be twofold. It's going to be denoted by its quantitative being and its qualitative being. If both of these are preserved, which they can be, in which the subsistence remains in the same hypostasis, then it should still be enumerated as two distinct things.
If they don't but the problem is we're defining nature as a hypostasis. That's the issue. We're defining nature as a hypostasis, right? The problem is you're making a distinction between a hypostasis and a particular. There is no distinction between a self-subsistent particular and self-subsistent hypostasis. And so by you saying that there's one self-subsistent hypostasis, that is going to be one nature. Yeah.
Well, one second. You put the words in my mouth. Okay, so let's make it very simple. Nature just denotes the principle or rest in a thing in which it exists necessarily and not accidentally.
Is it a particular?
Not always. It's not always defined as that.
In the context of Christology,
because John of Caesarea says that in St. Athanasius's letter to the Afrikaans that hypostasis sometimes, or nature, is defined as the general. But in I'm just going to take, because if we take Boethius's definition,
Cyril, for Saint Cyril, in the context of Christology, defined it as a hypostasis.
No, actually, that's
this is not contentious. By the way,
it is actually.
Like even Chalcedonians would affirm that when Cyril says one nature, he means one hypostasis. So if both parties agree that for Cyril nature is
one second. I'm actually going to prove you wrong here, and you can do it by the third anathema. Okay, you can prove that Saint Cyril, literally in the same sentence, invokes hypostases and nature in a different sense. Let's take the third anathema, for instance. If we have two hypostases prior to the union, is Cyril invoking the first hypostasis, the divine hypostasis, to be individually subsistent, and the second hypostasis to be non-individually subsistent because it's the general? Yes or no?
Yeah, so if he's saying that you cannot say two hypostases, then that's two natures.
It's a yes. One second. That doesn't even follow. But once again, you proved my point. Then that statement that there's two hypostases prior to the union, and then one after the union is invoked in three different senses.
That's right.
Well, 1 second. Three different senses. The first hypostasis, individually self-subsistent. The second, non-individually self-subsistent. The third, the union of the three things. So thank you very much for proving that the same sentence invokes.
What did you prove?
I proved
you cannot say two hypostases.
1 second.
Right. You cannot say two hypostases. That's right. You cannot say two hypostases.
Okay. So then that proves my.
Say one hypostasis.
No, 1 second. That proves my.
How does that prove your? That means. How does that follow that you didn't believe that the hypostasis is
Fanatic Coptic. Everyone heard you say that it's invoked univocally in the sentence. I just proved that it's invoked three different senses in the same sentence. In the third.
No, where does it say nature is not hypostasis? Where? Where?
Oh my gosh. Wait. I just want you to did you say in the third anathema it's invoked in 3 different senses?
No, where in the third anathema?
I'm talking about... Okay, Egyptian Christian. I'm going to repeat myself for the last time. In the third anathema, when it utilizes hypostases...
Yeah.
Okay, when it says hypostasis...
Where does it say that it doesn't mean nature? Yeah, or a particular... Yeah, like... Where in that third anathema does it define it as not being a nature?
Okay. Egyptian Christian. The hypostases at some point has to mean that it isn't nature, and let me explain why. Because the first
it isn't nature. That's my argument. You're not making that
Egyptian
argument.
Christian. Egyptian Christian. Let me finish my sentence, and then let's see if you can answer. 2 hypostases prior to the union is invoked in 2 different senses. The first, that one is individual.
That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. You cannot use a term in the same context in 2 different ways. That's a contradiction of terms. That doesn't make any sense. Because that doesn't make any sense. You cannot use... Okay, go ahead.
Khaya, let him land his plane, Khaya. Let him finish.
Everyone. Egyptian Christian...
One term that's used in 2 different ways in the same context. In the philosophy of language, it doesn't make any sense.
One second. Fanatic Coptic just admitted he's an Nestorian because he thinks that they use univocally. So do you have 2 individually subsistent hypostases prior to the union?
Enumerate 1 nature and 1 hypostasis after the union, you dummy. You're the one who's a Nestorian because you enumerate 2 natures. And for Cyril, a nature is hypostasis, so you believe in 2 hypostases after the union. That's going to be your problem, not my problem. So Wayne is a Nestorian. The guys proved it to you guys that he's just a Nestorian by enumerating 2 natures. And for Cyril, nature is hypostasis.
Adam, don't be like this.
Listen. I'm gonna be charitable.
Guys, stop. Adam, don't be like this. Like, speak normally. No need to call him names.
Coptic.
No, he's a Nestorian because we just proved that for Cyril, hypostasis is nature, and he believes in 2 natures after the union. That's 2 hypostases. He's a classical Nestorian.
Let's just show time, guys.
Relax. Hey. I'm gonna do some justice to your position, and I'm even going to quote Severus, where he says that there is not an individually subsistent hypostasis prior to the union. Do you want me to bring up the quote to Thomas Salensis?
That's only in conception, not in reality. So you don't even understand the difference between theoria and in reality. So in theoria, there are 2 hypostases before the union, not in a temporal sense. That's just in theoria. But after the union, there's 1 hypostasis.
Do you hear what they're saying?
The problem with you is if you take nature to be hypostasis, which you have to, and I'll make an argument for why you have to. Then when you enumerate 2 natures, that's 2 hypostases.
All right, so we'll do a short time. One sec. We'll do a short time. You speak. And then I'll let Wayne speak. You speak, then Wayne speak. Okay. No one can cut each other, and we can get both points across. I'm very fair. I will die for my faith. That's how sure I am of my faith. Ready, Adam? If you're ready, I can start the show time. Who wants to make the argument? Who wants to continue? You or Wayne? Yalla. You gonna speak or not? Adam, you there? I'm gonna put Wayne first. Yeah, now I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
I'm saying restart it again because I'm bringing the sources for why Cyril meant nature being hypostasis. So if you give me a few seconds, just until I prepare the sources, just give me 10 seconds.
Okay, all right. We'll wait, guys. Just wait.
I'll go instead. Can I go instead?
Okay, but you can go instead. Do you want him to go instead, Adam?
Okay, let me tell you why this.
It has to be a synonymous agreement. Do you want him to go instead, Adam?
No. I'll go first. Then.
Okay. How many minutes do you guys want each? Just Wayne, stop acting childish. Let's all speak together. How many minutes do you guys want?
He's a child, and he's gonna
get cooked. Guys, how many minutes do you want?
He's a story. He got cooked as being a story.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. How many minutes? Guys, 1 second.
Yeah, you can keep on laughing because you don't have an answer.
Guys, can you stop?
Hold
Can everyone stop? I'm muted everyone.
It's okay.
Guys, stop. I mute the whole panel. Listen, how many minutes you guys want? Adam, how many minutes? Egyptian Wayne, how many minutes? Yalla. Someone mute. I muted all of you.
Oh, well.
By the way, this will be posted.
It's good, right?
Let's do maybe I don't know, 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay, 2 minutes. This will be posted on YouTube, by the way, so everyone knows. Right. Okay. We'll call him Best Catholic Representative Debate. What do you think, Wayne? Is that a good name or? Oh my gosh,
not the best. Not the best.
Okay.
Coptic, the debate was already over with Wayne's rebuttal. I don't know why they.
Wayne didn't do a rebuttal. He just.
I don't think Wayne understands.
Give me the time, man. That's fine.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
You got everything ready?
Yeah.
Alright, يلا يا جماعة. اسمي يسوع. Fan Kate, Showtown, Egyptian Christian, and I'm gonna drop everyone on the panel, okay? I'm gonna have only Wayne and Egyptian, so then I can switch in 2 seconds without having to go through the whole panel. Alright, Acarius, Frozen, 16, okay. Double guest, give me a second, miss. 1 second, miss. Alright, yalla, we'll start with, give me a second, miss. الله يخليكم, 1 second. Countdown, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Okay. Let's go with Wayne first. No, Wayne.
All right, go with Wayne.
Yeah, okay. So let me explain.
If you want me to go first or Wayne, that doesn't matter.
Okay, I'll explain. Okay, so the reason why this effort is going to be futile is, let's just take the third anathema statement. There's two hypostases, plural, two hypostases prior to the union, and it comes into one. Now, regardless of what Fanatic Coptic shows that sometimes it's invoked as nature, it doesn't matter, because in that same statement, it's invoked in three different senses, hypostases. The first hypostasis of the Son, the Divine One, exists concretely and is self-subsistent. The second does not exist concretely. The second does not exist concretely.
Continue.
All right, bro, come on. Appreciate it. Come on, dude. They're paying you money. No, anyways. The second hypostasis is non-individually subsistent. It's not concrete, and it exists in abstract, meaning it exists as the species. The third is the union of both those things. Hence, if he even decides to show that nature equals individually subsistent hypostases, he then has to also confess that hypostases within St. Cyril's work also means abstract or general and non-self-subsisting concrete, not a concrete particular. Hence, the effort is futile whatever he does, because it still shows that in the very same sentence, it's differentiated with the use and the manner in which it's invoked in. And if you read John of Caesarea's fifth fragmentary on the Apology of Chalcedon, he shows that also hypostasis is used as essence in St. Athanasius's letter to the Afrikaans. I hadn't addressed them.
It's finished? Hello?
Yes.
Are you there? طيب أنا يعني did you start the timer or?
Wait, can you guys hear the echo?
Huh?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you can speak. Sorry, I was muted. My apologies. Yeah, speak.
Okay. Yeah, so Wayne was saying in the third anathema, can I open my camera? Let me see. Yeah, I can open it. Okay. We read it together. Here's the 12 anathemas. 12 anathemas proposed by Cyril of Alexandria and accepted by the Council of Ephesus. Here's the third anathema. If anyone divides the one Christ, the hypostases in plural, right, after the union. So for Cyril, he had to have believed that hypostasis is nature, right? Because if hypostasis means person, a self-subsistent hypostasis, like a person, must be two persons. That's Nestorianism. So he says here, hypostasis after the union, joining them only by a conjunction of dignity or authority or power, not by a true union, and not rather by coming together in a union by nature, or by hypostases, right? Let him be anathema. Where here do we see that there are three senses of hypostases or any of that stuff? All Cyril is saying here, right? Let me turn off the camera. All Cyril is saying here is you cannot divide the two hypostases in theoria, right? It cannot be in reality. So that the one composite hypostasis of two hypostases cannot be divided into two, right? The one composite nature cannot be divided into two natures or two hypostases. That's all he's saying. There cannot be division or separation between the two natures or hypostasis and the one composite hypostasis. Right? That's not Nestorianism, because Nestorianism says that there are two hypostases after the union, not in theoria, where we say that there's one hypostasis in reality after the union, right? And for Cyril, he would have had to have meant hypostasis as nature, because if he meant hypostasis as person, meaning self-subsistent hypostases, right, then he would be saying, oh, if anyone divides in the one Christ, the two persons after the union, right? And so, no, we don't believe that hypostasis is person.
Yeah, okay, anyways, so there was like literally not a single like response to what I said, and he acted like a Protestant by saying, well, let's just read the thing together, okay? Still haven't answered the problem. Let's go through it again. Two hypostases prior to the union. One, the first, is individually self-subsistent and is concrete, meaning that it exists as an individual or a particular. That's the divine hypostases. The second hypostasis prior to the union exists abstractly, not concretely, and does not have its own self-subsistence. If you're saying that it's conceived as its own particular abstractly, then that means the particular has to be concrete first for the object of perception to derive back to that conception. But no, it exists as an abstract or a general. Hence, hypostases in the latter form exists as essence, ousia, or general. Otherwise, you're a Nestorian. And Severus of Antioch himself confesses this in his letter to Thomas, I believe Silensis or something like that, where he says, prior to the union, the hypostases was not individual, meaning that hypostases here is taken as substance or ousia, because it exists abstractly and only as the species, until the union in which it gains its individuality, or differs from the general. It's very simple like that. So I'll repeat it again. Answer how it isn't invoked in two different senses, in which the first hypostasis, the divine, is considered as that which is individually self-subsistent and therefore a person, and then the second is abstract, not concrete, and it also exists as the species, not as a particular.
By the way, guys, the time is on your top left, just so everyone knows. Top left.
Yeah, I didn't notice the time. I was kept on speaking. I didn't notice the time, so probably I have to speak a lot, right? And speak very quickly, right? So from the quote that was given in third anathema, yeah, Wayne didn't even give a rebuttal to my rebuttal, right? It doesn't say that there are three sentences at all. He always says that there hypostasis of two hypostases, and there shouldn't be a separation of that one composite hypostasis into two separate hypostases, or that would result in Nestorianism. Now, when you said with the that the second one hypostasis has to be abstract, that doesn't even make any sense, because then you would have a universal incarnation. All of humanity would unite with the divinity. So if the human nature is abstract and not concrete. By the way, I don't think you even understand what abstract object is. The way it's used in metaphysics, it means it cannot stand in causal relations. What you meant is universals. Right? Universals don't have to be abstract, meaning that they can stand in causal relations. So I don't think you even understand metaphysics. Now, when it comes to the humanity of Christ, it cannot mean a universal, because then all of humanity would unite with the divinity. It has to mean a concrete reality, an individual concrete reality. And that's why for Cyril, he meant nature as hypostases. And you can't even refute that. And by the way, if you're going to say that Cyril didn't mean, for Cyril didn't mean nature as hypostases, what are you going to do with the quotes of Cyril saying that there's one nature after the union? Oh, he meant that there's one ousia after the union. That's going to be a mixture, right? For Cyril, nature is hypostases, right? And it has to mean hypostases. And that's why there needs to be a union of two individuals making one individual. But that's not Nestorianism, because Nestorianism would be two self-subsistent hypostases, a union of two self-subsistent hypostases. With that quote of Severus, he's saying that there is, when he's saying the hypostasis is abstract, he's talking in theoria. Abstraction here is used in theoria, meaning in reality, there wasn't two things in reality being united. It's only in reality is only after the union. Before the union, it's only in conception, in theoria, in the mind. That's what he meant in abstraction, that it's only in the mind that there are two before the union, but that in reality there is one after the union outside of the mind, objectively speaking. So I don't think you even understand anything, Wayne, and you don't even understand these quotes. And nature has to mean hypostasis, has to mean individual concrete reality, or else you have a universal. Wayne believes that all of humanity, Wayne believes that we're all Christ, ladies and gentlemen. He believes that we're all Christ. We're all united with the divinity of Christ. Right. So first of all, Wayne deviated from the Cyrillian terminology and how it's used, and it resulted in absurdity in all of humanity uniting with with the divinity.
Wait, you still have 20.
I think that was more than
How
2 minutes,
much?
by the way.
Can you guys see the minutes? Okay.
I think it was way more than 2 minutes.
No,
No. But what happened? No.
No,
What
I
happened
think
was
Wayne
you
is right. I think
changed.
Wayne is right. Wayne is right. Go ahead, Wayne. Yeah, I think.
No.
Okay, let the time go. 1
countdown,
second. Let the time.
the
finish,
countdown.
please. Wait.
Yeah. The countdown. You changed the countdown for Coptic, and then you changed the countdown to for all. So we had 4 minutes.
Do you want me to give you 4 minutes as well, Wayne? Or
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, I'm gonna put it on my what do you call it?
Wait, so I was speaking for 4 minutes?
Okay, I'm gonna put it on my phone. On my phone, and I'll tell you guys when time is up. So what do you want to do? 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 2? Choose the time.
It's fine. I can do 2.
2 minutes? Okay, 1 sec.
Okay.
2 minutes. Start now. Go.
All right. So the point was supposedly I'm claiming that all of like the total like sum of hypostases or like of the species incarnated. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying prior to the union, it lacks manhood and therefore it doesn't exist concretely. Hence, the opposing is to be abstract. It exists abstractly. And he himself said it abstractly exists like in theory, I think. But anyways, so the point here is like very simple, right? We've already established and we've put aside that the first hypostasis is concrete and individually subsistent, okay? The next hypostasis, so in the 2, the next hypostasis refers to humanity or the human nature. The human nature cannot exist concretely prior to the union because that means it was already particularized and thus that would result in like some sort of accidental union because the humanity was always existing. And then in the moment, it's sort of like a Diodor of Tarsus and Nestorius type thing where he was given grace or dignity raised up, but that's besides the point. Insofar as the second hypostasis, it has to mean species or universal or abstract, whatever you want to call it, because it's not concrete. It lacks manhood prior to the incarnation. So one is individual, one is not individual. One is particularized, one is general. One is concrete, one is abstract. These are all opposing to each other. They're completely opposed to each other prior to the union. Every single property you ascribe to the human nature is opposed to what you ascribe to the divine nature because it only exists as a species or universal prior to the incarnation. Hence, it follows to say that the first hypostasis is invoked as self-subsistent or particular. The second is invoked as universal or species.
Time's up, Wayne.
Okay.
Now, Egyptian Christian. Ready?
He said.
Wait. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, he says before the union there is no concreteness. Of course, because before the union the humanity didn't exist. Because then you're right, that would be Nestorianism. That's not what we believe, right? I'm saying after the union, after the whole discussion is after the union, not before the union. Yes, before the union the humanity is abstract. It's not concrete. We're talking about after the union in reality, right? You do have this one thing, one nature, right? One hypostasis. The problem is with you guys, you enumerate 2 natures after the union. If you're gonna say after the union in reality, right, that there's the human nature is like a general, it's the species, then all of humanity united with all divinity, right? In reality, that's going to be the case after the union. But you don't want to say that. You want to say that in reality, right after the union, you have this one concrete thing. But if we're defining nature as a concrete thing, then there should be an enumeration of one nature. Now, you want to say that nature, right, can mean hypostasis or it can mean ousia in 2 different senses in the same context. That's a contradiction of terms that doesn't even make any sense, right? And you can have the same term being used in different meanings in different contexts. It doesn't make sense to say, oh, nature means both ousia and hypostasis in the same context. That's a contradiction. It either has to mean ousia or it means hypostasis. It cannot mean both, right, in the same context. That's a contradiction because hypostasis is a contradiction with ousia. It cannot mean both in the same context. Hypostasis is not ousia. These are a general and a particular are two contradictory things. You cannot say, oh, these 2 contradictory things are in the same context. That's a contradiction, right? Now, you said that the first hypostasis is a concrete thing, the second hypostasis is an abstract. If that's going to be your definition after the union, right, then you have all of humanity, all human hypostasis being divine, being Christ, right? But if you're saying after the union, I'm focusing after the union, that there's this one divine human thing, then you've accepted metaphysitism. Then
Time's
you
up.
should abide by the numerical. Yeah, go ahead.
Time's up. All right, Wayne.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like Adam.
Wait. 1, 2, 3, go.
Wait, sir, my connection's really bad.
Okay, I'm gonna restart the time.
My connection's really bad. Hello.
Yeah, I'm gonna restart the time. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so I mean, Severus himself says that nature is a contronym, meaning it cashes out two different definitions, because terms can be co-referential in the sense of which they like have their grounding definition. Now, in the sentence, there's no contradiction or P and not P you can derive, because I'm saying that the author intended for hypostases to be co-referential, in which it would properly satisfy the condition that there's one hypostasis that would contain both the particularized divinity and humanity. Now, I don't know why this is so hard to understand. It's pretty easy, and if you don't accept it, then it basically results in Nestorianism. And we're talking about prior to the union, by the way, prior to the union. Now, if you want to talk about after the union, then that's fine. But I'm just saying that it's invoked in three different senses in that sentence. Now, let's talk about after the union. I don't say that the universal is the thing of which exists in the hypostases. I never said that. I said it is particularized when it exists within the hypostases because of the very fact that the divine nature communicates perfection to the human nature. And we can use the example of iron and fire and matter and form, right? That in a furnace, it's just the generality of fire. But with an iron, it's really a particularized hypostasis of a fire. And this is an example that St. Cyril, St. Basil, and Origen use. Now, when the iron is put within the furnace, it becomes a burning red-hot iron. And the fire that latches onto the iron becomes particularized. When it is taken out, then you have a hypostasis with the fire and with the iron. And there's no change involved in it, because that which exists as the form within the thing or the matter is not affected by the matter because there's no reciprocal change. Rather, the form is the actual to the potential, which is the matter. And likewise, we can think of it as the same way of Christ's hypostasis. The Christ or the Son exists in the human nature, and thus there's no reciprocal change because, like I said with the body and soul analogy, the soul exists within the body as a form, and there is no reciprocal change in which the body gives to the soul. Rather, it's the soul only enacting upon the body, because pretty simply, form is just the actual to matter, which is just the potential. So that's what we mean after the union. And you can't say it's two particulars or two individual self-subsistences.
Time's up. All right, are the Egyptian Christian? Unless Fanatic, you want to... Unless Fanatic, like, this is up to you guys. If you guys want to respond to each other and like not time, and then we respectfully do it, and no one cut each other.
Okay, so we can let me have my.
If any cutting, look, I'm not joking. Any cutting or any mocking, any insulting, anything like this.
I'm at work right now, and I'm in like the bathroom, so I'm gonna have to go like in 10 minutes. But anyways.
Yeah, so after my 2 minutes, then we can have like the back and forth.
All right, go ahead.
Wayne wants that.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, he says that Severus says that nature can be used in many different. That's what I said. It can in different contexts, not in the same context. So nature in the context of the Trinity means ousia, whereas in the context, not necessarily, like, it would be called like a concrete universe according to the Athens, right? But in the context of Christology, it means a particular or a hypostasis in accordance with what Cyril says, right? So yes, nature can mean many different terms, meanings in different contexts. To say that in the same exact context, it means both a universal or a general and a particular, that's a contradiction. Because there is going to be a P and not P. The P and not P is general and a particular. A general is not a particular. That's a contradiction to say that nature means both a general and a particular in the same context. That's just in the philosophy of language. You can have meanings that have co-referential meanings in different contexts, not in the same context. Now, when you said that. There's we're talking about the pre-union, in the pre-union, of course, the humanity of Christ is abstract. We're not talking about the pre-union. The humanity of Christ didn't even exist. It's just, what Cyril says in Theoria. We're talking about after the union. Now, after the union, if you're saying that the humanity of Christ is not an ousia, it's a particular, and yet you're enumerating one particular, that's just one particular nature. You're just enumerating one nature if you want to remain consistent, right? But by you enumerating two natures, right, and you're saying that the humanity of Christ after the union is not an ousia, but a particular, then you have two particulars. Welcome to Nestorianism, right? But or if you're saying it's an ousia, then you have a universal incarnation. So the main point is after the union, right? What is it? Is it a concrete thing or an abstract thing, right? The humanity of Christ. Now, if you're saying it's a form, right? If you're taking like the hylomorphic view of the body and the soul, that's just going to be, first of all, Saint Cyril actually anathematized that view in the Scholium, saying that the Trinity, because that would make it seem like it's the Trinity of Christ would then be like an essence, right, where you now have this form, right, called the, in the body soul, you have the human essence, and you have like the soul being the form of the body, right? That's just going to be very synonymous with the Trinity, right? Not with with Christology being a composition. You would have a constitutional relation, not a compositional relation, right? And actually, that would even result in one nature, because then you would have this one particular thing, right, that just has a form, right? That's just going to be a one nature.
Time is up. Thumbs up. Okay, now you guys can respond to each other.
All right. Okay. I'll just address.
It's gonna be now. It's gonna be what do you call it? Basically, you ask question, he responds. You ask question, he responds. Question, answers. Okay.
Right.
Wayne, and then Adam.
Yeah. Boy, it's just an open discussion, right?
You can now. It's like more of a question because like obviously you're short on time.
You can make it
No. Let's do an open discussion because that's boring.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do an open discussion.
All right. So, like, just to clarify, like, what do you actually mean by forms within the Trinity? Like, that seems like do you mean substantial forms or like a material substrate form? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, like a form would be like like in the Aristotelian sense, like substantial forms, but it's not like it's not like in the exactly like hylomorphism, right? It's going to just be like what the Father said, modes of subsistence. So it's going to be a particular way the divine essence exists as.
Yeah,
right?
okay. So then the example with the iron and the fire isn't like served for that reason. And I'll get to the body and soul composite and why I brought it up. The iron and the fire shows that the human nature must be anhypostatic, first of all, and that it gains particularization through the communication of the iron. And then the example of form and matter was to show that it results in no change within God. So that's the reason.
What does inhypostatic mean? What does inhypostatic mean?
Very simply put, do you want me to like just translate it or can I give a definition?
Oh, like the definition.
Okay. So Leontius of Byzantium in, I believe it's page 139, I think, or 134, either one. He basically defines it as something of which exists within another hypostasis and only gains peculiarization.
So it's a concrete thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, no, but only so when it exists within the hypostases at that moment, or when the hypostasis particularly actually exists in there, it gains peculiarization at that point.
Okay. Beautiful. I understand. So you want to say it's a particular within the divine hypostasis, not inseparable from the divine hypostasis, right? But this is the issue, because now you're defining the human nature after the union as a particular thing, right? That exists within the divine. But the issue is now you have a divine particular and a human particular composing a one composite particular, right? Of a self-subsistent particular and a non-self-subsistent particular.
Okay, do you agree that?
But then you should accept the enumeration of one nature. That's the contradiction.
Okay. Do you accept that particular merely denotes some sort of self-subsistence by way of a concatenation of individual idioms? Meaning.
No. So a particular can be a self-subsistent and non-self-subsistent.
Yeah, I know.
Listen,
I'm talking about a whole, okay? I don't care that there's a nonsense, because I know. This is why I said concatenation. This means the accumulation of all non-self-subsistent particulars. For instance, my individually instantiated feet, toes, all of these things.
Yeah.
Okay. The concatenation of all of those accidents results, right? And that's why it's individually subsistent.
Yeah, it results in one particular. It's going to result in one particular.
Okay.
That's
No. My point is just yes or no. Something is individually self-subsistent if and only if it has a concatenation of accidents.
Something is self-subsistent only if it has the you want to say only if it has the accumulation of
idioms
accidents
of something of which distinguishes it from the species.
Yes.
Okay.
And that distinguishes it from other members of the species.
Yes, of course. That's what being individual means, because it goes proprium.
No. But you can have. Yeah. You're right. You can have an individual That's a part of another of the whole, right? Like you said, like the n-hypostathon, right? Or
what do you mean?
non-self-subsistence.
No, not of the whole species, because they're the same.
Not of the whole. No, I'm not talking about the species. I'm talking about you can have a non-subsistent particular of a self-subsistent particular, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
like, you know.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. My point is this. Okay, if it is the case that within an entity something only gains existence or is communicated these like particular properties or idioms, if and only if it exists within the thing, then therefore its self-subsistence is relied on that one self-subsistence. Hence the self.
That's correct. No, I'm granting you all.
Okay.
So that's what we believe.
Right. So if we have this axiom, right, that self-subsistence actually has like some like a counterfactual So we can structure by like a counterfactual dependency, right? That like concatenation of accidents exists, and hence like individual self-subsistence exists. And actually no, wait, that's more so a symmetric like relation. But anyways, so hence, if it is the case that the accidents or the concatenation of non-individually self-subsistent things form only at the behest of existing within the hypostases, then therefore the self-subsistence is denoted only by that thing, because it's only related to gaining its individual properties by that one self-subsistence.
That's what I've been saying. The problem with that model is that now you have this one particular thing, right? You just have this one nature. We don't have two natures, because you cannot enumerate two natures with that model, because when you say that, you know, you have the humanity, right, it gains its subsistence from the self-subsistent divine hypostasis, right? The problem with that is now it's going to be apart, right? Because it's united, right? So there's going to be a part, but now you have this one composite particular thing, right, of two particulars, one being self-subsistent and the other not being non-self-subsistent. I don't have an issue with that, but the problem is that just entails you enumerating one nature, because
it doesn't actually.
Because nature just means a particular. Because the way we're defining the divine nature is it's a self-subsistent particular, right? And the human nature would be a particular. It gains its particularity and its subsistence, right? So it means a subsistence, but it's non-self-subsistent. But with that, you just get the one composite, right, particular of two particulars. That's just going to be metaphysicism.
No,
and you cannot enumerate two natures with that.
Well, one second.
With that model of Christology. I mean, that's the issue. Yeah.
Give me 1 sec.
Enumeration of two natures. How do you get two natures?
Okay. So you agreed that there's some sort of symmetric dependency between like individual self-subsistence relying upon like these concatenation of accidents, right? So you just admitted then that it relies on that particular self-subsistence to gain its particular properties. Hence, it wouldn't be enumerated as two different self-subsistences. It's as simple as that. And you can't say that's Miaphysitism. You can't say that's your quote unquote Miaphysitism, because nature is twofold. It relates to quantitative being and qualitative being. The quantitative being is still preserved. You guys deny that there's quantitative being concretely and there's only qualitative being existing, which is a very big problem.
But here, it's actually a huge problem. Contradiction. This is the because do you deny? So you're saying that there are two quantities of being?
Yes, there's two quiddities.
Okay, that's two beings. Well, that's the issue. So now you believe that's going to entail two
self-subsistence. No.
Why? Because then the non-self-subsistent human hypostasis isn't going to be apart or in union with the divine hypostasis. Because if it was, then you would have one quantity of being, one being, right, and two sets of properties. But because you're saying that there are two quantities of beings, they're going to have to be separated because there's no oneness, there's two-ness now, right? And thus that would entail two self-subsistent. That would entail two self-subsistent hypostases. But so that's the issue. If you want to say that there are two beings, if you want to say that there are two concrete realities or two beings or two particulars, and then I don't see. Then the humanity of Christ cannot be non-self-subsistent. Because if it was non-self-subsistent, it would be united with the self-subsistent. And if it's united with the self-subsistent, then you would have one quantity of being. That's just the entailment. Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, you like agreed to the axiom, right? That like there's some symmetrical dependency regardless, like I said before, and regardless of whether you like put more emphasis in saying like being louder, it's still not going to change the fact that Like there's this symmetric dependence.
No, but that in virtue of there being one quantity of being, right? In virtue, so there is going to be this symmetrical, because if there's separation, then I don't understand how there can be like this symmetrical dependency, right? It's only in virtue of the union that you can have this symmetrical dependency.
And that's the point of the union. It gains its self-subsistence only in the one self-subsistence.
But when you're saying that there are two quantities of being and not one quantity, then what does union even mean at this point?
Well, it can mean many things because it's like 13 different types of unions. Are you talking about
but
substantial
union just means oneness, right?
Well, actually, not really. That's very vague because Aristotle defines like 10 different or like 7 different onenesses: analogical, substantial, substratum, taxons, and differentia, accidents.
Yeah, but union the word union means, it literally means oneness.
But oneness is such a vague. But oneness is such a vague like statement, right? Like.
Yeah, but if you have two-ness, then how can you have one? Like, but like if we're going by like the standard definitions for like what one means and what two means,
what?
right?
That's like saying if you have oneness.
You're saying that there are two-ness and not
that's
oneness.
That's like me saying if you have oneness by like differentia. That's like me saying if you have oneness by like genus, for instance, because there's like 2 species. It doesn't actually mean like one genus because you have 2 species. So that's like me saying, oh, because it's an accidental union between like coraceous and musical, then therefore it's actually not a oneness of accident.
I understand, but the
okay,
problem
so then
is,
clarify.
Yeah, so I'm clarifying, right? By you rejecting that there's one quantity of being and there are 2 quantities of
like
being.
So much.
I'm lagging? Am I lagging? Hello?
You cut off like a bit. Go ahead.
Am I good now?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm saying the problem is, right, so the reason why I would argue that there's separation, right, if you're going to enumerate 2 quantities of being, right, is because if they weren't separated, if they were united, if meaning that one is if there's composition, right, that one is a part of another, right, then you would have one quantity.
This is ridiculous.
Huh?
No. Because do you think that like subsistence necessarily relates to like quantity of being?
Subsistence. If you have one existence, then yeah, I don't understand. Like if you have one existence, then yeah, but then that's one quantity of being. That's one being. Like that's one quantity. Yeah.
Wait, I'm curious though. By like existence and like necessarily like subsistence, do you mean that they're like literally ipso facto identical in meaning?
Sorry, say that again.
I said, like, do you mean that like subsistence and like existence is like ipso facto like identical in meaning, or do you mean rather that like one denotes like what the thing is, and then one denotes?
It means concretizes. Like when something subsists, a subsistence is just like a concretization of something. It's a concrete existence. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it's a concretization of the thing because it gains its like individuating properties, right? So if you agree that like this one, okay. Now, I don't see how if we have like some sort of 1-to-1 ratio between like subsistence and like individuality, then it's necessarily the case that like the individuality hinges upon like the subsistence, and the subsistence hinges upon the individuality. So thus it would be like improper to say that there's another. Yeah, okay. So then thus would be improper to say that there's another individual subsistence when the subsistence remains one.
That's going to be your issue.
That's
going to be an issue with you. That's going to be the issue with your.
Can I ask a question? You guys mind if I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Would you believe there's 2 individual beings in Christ?
What do you mean by that? Like they have their own individual properties? Yeah, of course.
So there's 2 individual beings in Christ. You have no issue with that?
Wait, one sec, Agen. Are you taking existence to mean ipso facto subsistence?
I didn't even say the word existence. That didn't come out of my mouth. I said, are there 2 individual beings in Christ?
Yeah, and you were equivocating being with existence?
I didn't say the word existence.
Oh, okay, but Agen, when you invoke a term, then it's usually vague unless you clarify what it means, especially in a philosophical discussion.
Okay, is that like
apparent to you?
Is there any sense where you could say there's 2 individual beings in Christ?
Well, of course, there's a sense. Its words are literally like completely like subjective of whatever like a person means.
Okay,
so again, a very vague statement. Would you like to clarify?
Taking the definition that whatever is predicated of the common and spoken of, could you say there's two of them in Christ?
Whatever's predicated of the common and spoken of, you mean as there's a primary substance and there's like a secondary substance to be predicated
of? An individual thing.
Yeah, if there's two, yeah. If you mean by quiddity, then sure, that's what you just stated.
I didn't say quiddity. Just the definition. Whatever is predicated of the common and spoken of. Are there two
the difference between something when it's explicit and implicit? Agen, do you know the difference between when something's spoken explicitly and implicitly?
Can you answer?
Well, no, you're actually not clarifying any of your terms. I already did answer your question. There's two quiddities within Christ.
Are they individual?
Well, what's your question, Agen?
Okay,
I'll repeat myself for the fifth time now. They're individual. No. Agen. Everyone heard me say this. They're individual quiddities because they're distinguished from the species. Okay, Agen, do you know the hierarchy? Genus, species, proprium, different. Yeah, okay. I already clarified. I said individual quiddity.
Stop panicking. Can you say there are two things that are predicated of the common and spoken of?
Good rhetoric, bro. Nice rhetoric.
Yes or no? Can you say, I'm going to ask again, can you say there are two things that are predicated from the common and spoken of?
All I heard was common and spoken of.
Can you say there are two things that are predicated from the common and spoken of?
Well, if you mean like the secondary substance, then yes. But obviously
no,
there's no
I'm not
secondary.
talking about secondary. I'm saying predicated.
That's what you're saying. You just said, are you saying, well, one second. No, secondary substance is predicated of a primary. Well, one second. Let me educate you on something. Secondary substances take
what do you mean
educate?
Answer the
because
question.
they're predicated.
Can you say
I already answered your question. Everyone's going to hear me.
Predicated from the common and spoken of. Yes or no?
Yes.
I just gave you Cyril's definition of hypostases. How do you feel? You just affirmed two hypostases.
Wait, Agen, here, let's go through. Wait, Agen. One sec. Don't run. Let's go. Wait, Agen. Don't run. Let's go through what hypostases defined us. In the third anathema.
I gave you Cyril's definition of hypostases. You just said yes to it.
In the third anathema, there's two hypostases prior to the union. Agen, there's two hypostases prior to the union, okay? Let's go through this very simply. There's two hypostases prior to the union. Do you agree that the first hypostasis exists concretely in its individual subsistence?
When he says there's two hypostases prior to the union, it's epistemological, not temporal. So this is why Severus will say he rejects that there's two concretized hypostases which then temporally unite. So when we speak of a convergence
and I
from
accurately
two
represented his
hypostases,
position when I said he was united.
when we speak of a union from two hypostases, it's epistemological. It's not temporal. So you affirm two hypostases. How do you feel?
No, actually, 1 second, Agen. Two hypostases is invoked in two different sentences when you just said it, and you just proved my point. Does the second hypostasis lack manhood and concreteness?
Again, when it's temporal, there is no human hypostasis.
No. Answer the question. Wait. Answer the question. Wait. Agen. Let's repeat it again. I'll hold you to the
temporal. There is no human hypostasis.
Don't run, Habibi. Don't run. Exactly. So it's not concrete, correct? It's not concrete.
There's no human
Therefore,
hypostasis.
it's not concrete, correct?
There is no human hypostasis, so you can't argue that hypostasis has two meanings.
Okay.
That's fine. You just got busted. What do you mean that's fine?
Well, 1 second.
There is no human hypostasis temporally prior to the union for me to say it's abstract.
Because
you have two individual hypostases.
Is there two? 1 second. I just got to call. Is there two hypostases prior to the union? Yes or no? That's all I want to hear.
Epistemologically, not temporally. Epistemologically, there's two concrete things. Temporally, we don't even speak of two hypostases.
I understand.
So if you understand, then there's no two senses of hypostases.
Is the first hypostasis individually subsistent and concrete?
There's only one hypostasis prior to the union temporally, two epistemological.
Agen, third anathema, is there plurality of hypostases or is there one hypostasis?
Before the union, there's two epistemological hypostases. I did answer.
Okay. So when you keep saying Agen, you keep saying epistemologically. Okay, I'm going through this with you. Is the first individually subsistent and concrete? Yes or no?
Both are epistemologically. Both are concrete.
Wait. So
funny.
The second nature,
epistemologically, prior to the union, there's two concrete things according to the defense of the 12 anathemas. I can give you the quote where he explains how they're both concrete epistemologically prior to the union. I understand your argument. Your argument is that prior to the union, there's going to be two hypostases. You're going to argue there's a sense in which the human one is abstract.
You're cutting out a lot.
We don't believe there's two hypostases prior to the union temporally. We believe there's two hypostases prior to the union epistemologically, and
Agen, I didn't say that temporally. Here, Agen. When something's not concrete, it's not spatial.
I saw your discussion.
No, I'm not. No. Agen, it's implied.
Fanatic Coptic, don't try to take it back.
It's implied when someone says, yeah. And Fanatic Coptic's got more of a brain than you because you're a dimwit. Because if you actually knew anything, when you don't talk concretely, you're not taking these objects. You're not taking these objects to be spatial or temporal.
Again, prior to the union.
So let's try this again. Let's try this again. I didn't say that. Once again, it's literally implied when someone says it's not concrete. No, I didn't. It's literally implied for the opposite. It's literally implied for the opposite, Agen. If something is not concrete, then it's not spatial or temporal. What?
I'm going to explain one more time. Prior to the union, when we speak of two hypostases, there's the epistemological sense, when we recognize heterogeneity and see what the union took place from.
What's the opposition to concrete, Agen? What's the opposite to concrete?
I'm explaining to you, listen, especially after you affirm two hypostases.
What's the opposite to concrete, Agen?
What are you giggling for?
What's the opposite to concrete, Agen?
What are you giggling for? This is completely
because you're embarrassing yourself. What's the opposite to concrete?
You're the one who affirmed two hypostases. I don't know why you're giggling. I'm trying to explain to you.
Agen, what's the opposite to concrete?
Why are you asking the questions when I'm the one trying to explain something to you? You're not asking the questions right now.
What's the opposite to concrete? No, all of your questions have been answered, and then you went into the statement, and then all you could say is, well, it's not temporally, it's actually epistemologically.
Yeah. Yes, we're speaking of prior to the union. You don't know what prior means.
Yes. And that's implied. That's implied when someone says it's not concrete, Agen, because concrete objects are spatial and temporal.
Again, even the word prior to the union has subsistence. And when he has subsistence, there's only one temporal hypostasis.
No one disputed that. No one disputed that.
Okay, perfect. So now that your whole argument exploded because Cyril only used hypostases in the concrete, how do you deal with the fact that you affirm two hypostases? What are you going to do now?
One second. That's why I just proved to you. That's why I just proved to you that
you didn't prove anything. There
everyone,
aren't two senses of the word
listen. I'll answer you. Sorry.
There aren't two senses of the word hypostasis. That's what I just refuted. Hypostases, in the case of Cyril,
you didn't refute anything because you can't answer the question, nor do you understand that concrete is spatial and temporal, and abstract, and abstract.
You feel with the
is
fact
that which is not spatial and temporal. Agen,
how do you feel about the part where you affirm
what's the opposite to concrete? What's the opposite to concrete?
What does this
you don't
have
want to
do
answer
with
a question.
My
What's the opposite to concrete?
I'm the one asking the questions.
Because
I asked you first.
All your question is saying, listen, all your question is you're presupposing your one univocal definition of hypostasis and saying, how does it feel that you affirm two hypostasis prior to the union? Are you retarded? No, you didn't. And you won't answer. My rebuttal is showing they're two differently invoked statements and co-referential, and then you're saying, no, it's temporal and epistemological, and then I respond, and then you just repeat your question. So what are you doing here?
There's a second sense of the word hypostasis in the Ephesian Christological controversies.
Okay. I'll do that very simply. If you'd actually answer any of the questions. Can you answer some of the questions? Is the first hypostasis individually self-subsistent? Is the first hypostasis individually subsistent and concrete?
What do you mean by first? What do you mean by first? What do you mean by prior to the union? Epistemological prior or temporal prior? I'm asking about the term prior. Okay, in the case of the epistemological prior, there are two concrete hypostases.
Okay. Do you believe that like this second human like concrete hypostasis? Do you believe that it has like particular qualities? Hello?
Can you repeat your question?
And by epistemological, do you believe that... Sorry?
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you again. We can hear you.
Can you guys hear Wayne? I can't hear Wayne.
He's not speaking.
Hello, I'm speaking actually. Hello. Can you hear me?
Okay.
No, Agen's...
Can you repeat your question?
Hello?
Can you repeat your question? So I just answered there's two hypostases that are concrete epistemologically.
Hello, I'm speaking. Hello.
Hello, I can hear you.
Can you hear
me? Maybe he's pretending.
Yeah, I'm there.
Maybe he's pretending not to hear us or something.
No, I'm here. You're cutting out though because your connection is bad and everyone can literally see it.
There's two concrete
You didn't answer my question.
epistemologically.
What? You literally didn't answer my question. You paused your screen and then you went off.
Epistemologically. Your first question. That was my answer. There's two concrete hypostases epistemologically. What was your other question?
Okay. Does this like second human nature... Oh, actually, first of all, it's better to clarify. By epistemologically, do you just mean like in like some sort of abstract sense?
By epistemologically, I mean we're viewing of the two concrete things which entered into a henosis. That's what I mean.
Wait, did you just say it's an object of perception?
I'll give you an example. Whenever we locate any composite with opposing predicates, our mind is informed about the opposing predicates that they could not belong to a homogeneous thing. So because of that, our mind creates for itself epinoia and theoria, so it is technically in the mind, two concrete hypostases, or the understanding that they're concrete, individual, particular. They're not concrete in the sense as if they can be picked out in reality, but our mind conceives them as concrete. So there's a sense in which you can say it's abstract, another sense in which you can say it's concrete.
Okay, you just actually, okay, so now that you clarified that, this is going to be like bad for you, okay? So I'm actually going to be talking in the sense that two hypostases is invoked in the manner of which one is denoted by an object of perception because it's concrete. The other is only denoted by the object of cognition, meaning that it's only existing within the mind thus far. Thus, it's not concrete yet. So you just stated, one second.
Conceiving of two.
Agen, 1 second. Okay. Do you agree that in theoria, to like know these like particular things, you need to have this like perception of the thing first. Like you need to be the onlooker, right?
At the composite thing, you view the composite thing and then understand the two things.
No. I'm saying in concept to distinguish between the universal and the particular has to be existing concretely, and you have to be an onlooker to the particular. This is the distinction between an object of cognition and an object of perception.
Well, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the composite hypostases? Or are we talking about the relation between particular universal? I don't see where your argument's going.
Okay. I'll get to it soon, okay? So we're talking about the humanity that you view, in which then you can make like some sort of like deduction of that humanity, of what it is, how it exists.
That's not what we conceive of in theoria. That's not what we conceive of in theoria.
This is not answering my question. I already explained the distinction.
The question is unrelated.
My question is absolutely related, actually, because I'm telling you there's a distinction between an... Okay, what? Okay. There's a distinction between an object of cognition and an Dude,
the reason this is unrelated is because I'm not conceiving of a human universal and theoria. I'm conceiving of two hypostases and theoria.
I know. That's my point, Agen. That's my point. You're not listening. Listen very carefully, okay? Okay, listen. No. You need to listen very carefully because I'm asking questions. I don't know if it's your Wi-Fi, but you keep interrupting me, okay? The point is, right, you're distinguishing between something which exists abstractly as a universal and particularly abstractly, okay? Both of these things exist within the mind. For that to occur for the particular, because these are correlative terms, you need to have an objective perception, meaning the onlooker has to know about the thing for it to be particular.
I just told you I'm conceiving of two particulars, though.
Yeah,
I just
exactly,
told you
exactly.
Conceiving of two particulars.
Okay, so that's fine. Can I explain the objective perception?
What do you mean that's fine? Where'd you get the universal from if I'm conceiving of two particulars?
Oh, I see what he's going to say. Wait, you believe that you can have particulars without a universal, correct?
That's not my argument. My argument is that
no. Everyone just heard you say, Agen. Everyone just heard. No. One second. I don't need to let you speak because you spoke enough.
What do you mean you don't need to let me speak? What do you mean? What is this? Yo, what?
Because I can respond to you already.
Disingenuous.
Yeah, you said enough.
I can respond to you already. That just means you're terrified.
So he just said I didn't say. He just said I didn't say universal. He just said I didn't say universal. I only said particular. And then what he said is, and then I asked him, can a particular exist without a universal? He said no. Okay, so the point is, Agen, is that a universal is a correlative term for a particular. One cannot exist without the other, just as genus and species are purely correlative terms. Now, when I say universal in particular, I'm saying how do you distinguish between the manner of which something is a universal, existing as all in the species, and something which is particular. That's by the object of perception, which is going to be by the onlooker in reality. Meaning that you already presuppose the temporal thing after or posterior to the incarnation.
Stop manifesting, dude. Stop manifesting. You just went on a tangent when I said one little word disrupted your entire argument. I'm conceiving of two particulars, not universals. The entirety of your argument has been contingent on the fact that I accept the human universal. So stop interrupting me when I go to refute your whole argument from the very beginning.
It doesn't matter because you agree they're correlative terms. You agree they're correlative terms. So how do you distinguish between the universal and the particular? How do you distinguish between the universal and the particular in the mind? Tell me. They're correlative terms, Agen. They're purely correlative terms like genus and species. You need one for the other. So I'll ask you again, how do you distinguish between a universal and then a particular or an individual within the mind only?
My friend, take a deep breath. Why are you still freaking out? I opened my mouth for 1 second.
I'm not your friend.
Again,
don't call me your friend.
You're proving my point further. You're my friend. I love you, Habibi. You don't like that because you're manifesting. That's my point. Stop manifesting. Let me get a word out.
Rhetoric, bro. It's gonna really hit with like the Orthodox Christianity graduates.
Keep it fruitful and respectful, please.
I've been completely civil. You're just completely manifesting. Just let me explain. When we're conceiving of the two hypostases, I already gave you the entire principle that we're conceiving of two particulars. I'm not conceiving of a concrete and an abstracta. I'm conceiving of two particulars in theoria. So I don't have to distinguish between the universal and particular when I'm conceiving of two particulars.
Okay. Can a particular exist without a universal?
Homogeneous particulars need universals.
Okay, so they're correlative terms, correct?
What do you mean correlative term? They imply each other? Is that what you mean?
No, so purely correlative terms means that one cannot exist without the other. If one lacks, then therefore the other ceases to exist.
So they imply each other. Yeah, you need a particular to have a universal.
Perfect. So now my question is to you then, how do you distinguish or how do you conceive of this particular from the universal? Let's say you have your species and your individuals. How do you distinguish and show that the species is not the individual by the particular properties, right? How do you get these particular properties?
What universal are we talking about?
I'm talking
universal? Okay,
whatever genus, whatever species, whatever individual.
The way you distinguish between the essence and the particular, or the universal and the particular, is that the particular is instantiated from the universal, and the universal is a compendium of its particulars. That's the relationship.
Okay. No. I'm asking, how do you know that they're distinguished? How do you know what the individual properties are?
The individual properties are numerically distinguished from others of the same kind.
Yeah, no. I'm saying, how do you know what the individual properties of the individual is from the species?
Because the species is present within the various particulars. The particulars have individual properties which distinguish them from other individuals of that same species. That's why.
I'm talking. Okay.
That's how.
I don't think I made this.
That's how Basel distinguishes particular from universal. That's how Basel distinguishes particular from particular, and that's how Basel distinguishes universal from other particulars.
Okay, 1 sec. I'm gonna have to drive home in 30 minutes. I'll be on.
You're gonna leave right now? Okay. I'd like to know why you affirm two hypostases when you're back. Maybe that would be fruitful.
Oh yeah.
By the way, Adam, Leon, you see Leon in the comments? Apparently he's a XOO.
Okay.
Apparently he was Coptic and he left the Coptic church. And he became a Castilian after speaking to Wayne. Interesting, huh?
Yeah, but Wayne couldn't answer any of our questions. That's the issue.
I still didn't get an answer for why he affirmed two hypostases. He tried to take me down this route, and it didn't work.
Beings.
He believes two beings, two high.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very simple. Yeah, it's not even that complicated. Explaining the Christology. The thing is in the end of the day, if you say that nature is a particular, then you're saying that there are two particulars.
Okay, hello?
Oh, Agen is back.
Hello?
Wayne,
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, I'm probably gonna have to go. I'll be back on 30 minutes. I just have to go home. But yeah, that's not actually answering my question anyways. The point is how do you distinguish?
You asked the question first, right?
I didn't hear whatever you said because I had my volume turned all the way down because I was in an elevator.
My question was, why did you say two hypostases?
I can't answer now because I literally have to go down. So
fair enough. When you come back, answer why you affirm two Cyrillian hypostases.
The movie Abuna Mina Fattahuna?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you need to watch that. It's a beautiful. It's Pope Correlative when he was living in the windmill, right? For a few years. Yeah, it's a beautiful movie.
So, Wayne, in summary, with where the convo is going, I got you to affirm two hypostases. You're arguing hypostasis can have another sense, where it's used abstractly. Can you prove this?
Yeah, I can actually. Hello?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can prove it.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so you said the hyper. Well, I'm just gonna resume off the prior points before, but you said that the hypostases they exist concretely, quote unquote, epistemologically prior to the union, correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this is epistemologically is just basically substituted for in theory, right? So
yes.
Okay, so my question is gonna be, you agree that for a universal it needs every two we need two particulars, right, for a universal to exist, and likewise
I don't know about one or two, but sure, it's co-referential. It needs a particular. It needs okay, fine. Let's say two. We need a particular.
Don't say let's say two. It has to be two. Otherwise, how do you distinguish what's individual?
How are you going to distinguish? Okay, let's say two. Go ahead.
Okay. And presumably, the next question is going to be, how do you distinguish individuals and also from the universal, within the mind? I'm curious.
In the case of man, the way we distinguish the universal from the particular is that in the case of the particular, how do you distinguish particulars from particulars?
Well, yeah, so twofold. So universal to particular, and I'm talking concretely, and then particular to particular, yeah.
Okay. In the case of particular to particular...
But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. In the case of particular to particular, they're going to possess predicates which numerically distinguish one from another that have some sort of commonality. So, and the way particular is distinguished from the common is that the common is going to have some sort of set predicate, which then gets instantiated in a particular mode. So an example would be, I'll give an example where you can see all this come to play. let's say in the universal, you're going to find the predicate of having hair color. It's very vague and common. It then gets instantiated as black. If in one individual, it gets instantiated as brown in another. So when we see black versus brown, we're going to see that's numerical differentiation between them. And then when we compare black to just a vague property of having hair color, we notice the vague property gets instantiated into the particular, and then the particular with all the other particulars forms a compendium of the universal.
Okay. That wasn't like really what my question was getting. I'm saying, how do you know that they're distinguished?
Because they're numerically distinguished from one another of the same kind.
Wait, how do you know they're numerically distinguished?
Because I can locate it in one and not another.
No, but I'm saying
through some type of induction.
Induction, perfect. And this is based off an objective perception, correct?
It could be through perception, like through your eyes. It could be through your mind.
Your mind, yeah, correct. But it needs to have some like basis in reality, because like we mentioned... Of
course.
No, just wait one sec. Like we mentioned before, that the manner of which you need to distinguish, or that a universal needs two particulars, is because you can observe two properties in which each would lack, and thus you can see which is commonly predicated of them and which is not. You agree?
Then you're gonna go with what do you see in reality?
No.
In the case of Christ.
One sec. Okay. Are you familiar with like phasal and non-phasal properties?
No. Explain that for me.
Okay. Well, to put it like very simply, because I'm not going to go into like too much depth for it, but it basically denotes. So the phasal is basically that which denotes the thing which goes from non-existent to existent to non-existent. So, for instance, Aristotle, he uses like the example of a sitting man. So the sitting man really doesn't exist until the act of sitting, and that therefore becomes an essential property. But then the sitting man is therefore vanquished and replaced with the standing man when the sitting man stands. Okay?
Isn't sitting just an accident? How does it become essential property?
Well, like in this... one sec.
You're good.
Sorry, my mom's just calling me. No. So it does become an essential property to the subject, the sitting man.
The way I take essential property is it belongs to the common. It wouldn't belong to a particular.
No,
maybe what we mean to say is that it becomes necessary to the man for a specific time.
To the subject, which is the sitting man. Yeah, that's the point of the phasal property.
It would be necessary temporarily, and then when he stands up, it's like vanquished. It disappears.
Yeah, that's the point of a phasal property, yeah.
Okay, so it's something which doesn't exist, exists, and then doesn't exist.
Yeah, pretty much. That's like simply. And then you can obviously infer what a non-phasal property is, right?
You explain it for me. I have two guesses.
Well, the non-phasal property is just the opposite, where basically it's always like an essential thing, because the moment of conception for the thing, whether it exists individually, in abstract or concrete, it always has.
So it's like a consistent property.
It's a what, sorry?
A consistent property. It always exists in the object.
I don't know. Is he cutting off anyone else?
Cutting off a bit, Wayne. I can hear Agen nicely.
Okay, can you repeat that?
So non-phasal would just be a consistent predicate, a consistent property.
A consistent property? Yes. And it's also it's a necessary truth as well for the subject. But anyways, yeah.
So non-phasal, phasal. Okay, we got it. Now what?
Yeah, okay. So, and you agreed prior that you know that the two particulars are distinguished by way of an objective perception, correct?
Whether it be through mental apprehension or... Yeah, but it needs to have some grounding in reality, which I can account for in my system.
Okay.
I know where this is going.
If you know where it's going, then you'd know the problem, because then it just equates to what you said prior temporarily. And then
I know the solution.
One sec. And then the problem is, or then what the explication is going to be prior to the union, we can say that the divine nature has non-phasal properties concretely, and the other only has phasal properties not concretely, but in the mind.
Wayne, look. You're a smart guy, but according to Athanasius, there's a three-stage step. There's the temporal moment where there is no humanity at all, and then there's the middle moment, the moment of union. This is something that as metaphysics we have an account for, and Theoria comes in different stages. There's the moment of union, the temporal case prior to union, and then the temporal case after the union. In Ad Jovinian, this is where you'll get your answer, because this is a pretty well constructed argument, but I've already thought about it before.
Well, Athanasius
in Ad Jovinian,
that hypostasis can be nascent.
I'll explain. Yes, I know what he says. Okay. In Ad Jovinian, basically, when he's writing to this emperor, he says, as soon as there is flesh in the Virgin Mary, it is flesh of God the Word. So there's a middle state of the union. It doesn't just go from abstracted universal and then becomes inhypostatized in the subject. St. Severus also cites this to make the same argument. There's a case where there was no humanity. As soon as there's a zygote in the Virgin Mary, that's a concretized particular. And the very temporal moment that it's concretized in the womb of the Virgin Mary, it becomes numerically one. And now that we see opposing particular properties within one nature, our mind examines for itself two particulars. So your argument forgets the middle stage. I know where you're going. It's a well-constructed argument. You went from the temporal moment where it's just a universal hypostasis, all of a sudden there's a union, so therefore the essence must subsist in the particular. Your argument didn't account for the middle position defined by Athanasius. As soon as there is flesh in the Virgin Mary, it is flesh of God the Word. If you want the quote, I can show it to you. You there, Wayne? Did I cut, guys? Or
hello?
Oh,
Here you go.
Oh, sorry. Did you guys hear anything I said before?
No, you weren't on the.
Okay. So like you can show me the quote after, but this middle stage is seemingly just something denoting the thing which occurs simultaneously at the conception.
yes.
Yeah, but this is an argument against your position then as well, not my position.
No.
Yeah,
not really.
Yeah. Okay. Agen. Like, actually, I don't really want to deviate too much from the topic, but basically, this would be like an argument against yours because when something.
Why?
Well, I'm using the axiom to basically construct the new arguments, but I don't know if you want to stray off this.
It's not that I want to stray off. Like, I know where your argument is going. It just doesn't work.
Okay, so what's... Sorry?
The argument doesn't work. I know what you're trying to argue. There's a temporal state where the humanity didn't exist, therefore it must be some universal and hypostatized. It gets its subsistence in the person of the Word. The Word gives his perfections to God the Word. I know where this is going.
It's not unhypostatized, and that's not even what I'm arguing.
Okay. It would be another term, whatever you want to use, of the flesh gaining subsistence in the supposit.
No. Let's forget about that. No, I'm saying let's forget about that because it doesn't even matter right now. I'm saying,
okay.
Yeah, okay. So the point of the argument is your quote-unquote epistemological distinction really collapses into a temporal notion, and then your next answer is basically going to be, well, this can be applied to divine nature. That's why I gave an account for non-Phasal and Phasal properties. Your middle account hasn't given any mapping or refutation to what I said. So how does this middle account, one, map out to anything that's intelligible, and two, how does
because we can pick out a moment in history where there was a particularized instantiated humanity.
That's fine. Okay.
Okay, so then now the union is of two particulars, and now in the mind we conceive of two particulars.
Yeah, but it's existing in concrete. You just denoted something that's really temporal. So that's the point, right? Yes. Okay. So is the existence simultaneous to the union?
Absolutely. The exact same moment.
Perfect.
As soon as it's instantiated, it enters union.
Perfect. So it's temporal then.
Yeah, as soon as it's instantiated, it enters the union.
The epistemological thing reduces to temporality.
No, because it never had its own enumeration in reality. It never had its own enumeration temporally. The instantiation was temporal, but as soon as it was concretized, it became numerically one.
Again, I'm not disputing.
So that's why.
Okay. Let me make this clear. That's not my dispute whatsoever. That's not what I'm disputing. I understand that you guys say at the moment of the union, well, actually, it never really gains it, but you could say, quote unquote, that So nature is twofold. It's twofold by way of quantitative being and qualitative being. You say that the quantitative being, in a sense, is like non-existent or abolished or whatever you want to call it, but the qualitative being remains. That's fine. I'm not arguing that. That's not my argument whatsoever. The point is I'm talking about how you can invoke, and we're going to get back to the original topic. The point is to show that these two things, or these two terms, hypostases, can be co-referential because they're plural in the same sentence for different definitions. And you argue that there's an epistemological substitution which refutes this idea, and I'm talking about some temporal thing. Yet I just reduced the epistemological thing to a temporal thing. Thus,
you didn't, because you lack the middle position. What you're trying to argue is that when you reduce it to temporality, you would have two particulars. But what happened is, I didn't say that you have two particulars temporally. I said as soon as the flesh is instantiated temporally, it's made numerical one.
Agen, I understand it, and I'm
not
not
a moment in period. There's not a moment in period where there is two temporal particular things. There's a temporal instantiation. There's a temporal instantiation where now two particular things are made one.
Okay, yeah. Agen, I don't even claim, like, I'm not even claiming that. Particularization can exist in quantity and in quality. So it doesn't matter about the quantity whether it exists as a whole or not. Who cares about that? That's not even what I'm arguing.
Well, but what even is your argument now? Because I just explained how our system is coherent, how we have one subject, how we avoid counting two in any way, and how we still maintain double consubstantiality.
Listen. Okay.
That's your argument. What's this other sense of hypostases?
Okay.
Vindicate yourself.
Everyone like heard what the argument was, and you're literally talking like at the moment of the union or after the union, like Fanatic Coptic Agen. We're talking about prior to the union, okay? And this is okay.
Prior to the union, there isn't a human nature temporally. Prior to the union, epistemologically, there's two quantitative things.
Okay, it exists in mind. Okay, so we already established after the union, you determine what the particular qualities is. Yet prior to the union, it's phasal, meaning it's non-existent.
Temporally, there's no human nature at all. It doesn't exist at all.
No, okay, but I don't think you're like understanding this. The abstract corresponds to two mapped out positions within reality. Okay, whether it's temporal or not, or three as well.
What abstract? The en theoria before the union?
Yes, because like I said,
it doesn't map out to any temporal things.
No, it has a corresponding reality. It does.
No, it doesn't.
What?
I define my position, not you. There was never two temporal things at all. St. Severus actually says specifically, when we say the union is from two hypostases, we don't mean that two hypostases formed and then united. He says this in Against John the Grammarian. So we never had two mapped out particular things in reality. Ever.
Okay, I'm gonna make this very clear. I've read some of Severus's work. I can mention his letter to Thomas Silensis about how he says there was no manhood prior to the union. I've never claimed that.
Temporally.
Yeah, I've never claimed that.
But what you did claim is that we had two particular things in reality temporally.
Well, by the quantitative being, by the qualitative being, yes.
I just told you we reject that. We don't have two particular things temporally.
No, Agen, you're taking particular to mean a whole. Do you believe that a property of the humanity is individual?
Again, by particular, I'm referring to a particular subject of predication. Okay. Something which has predicates.
Okay, that's fine. And like Egyptian Christian mentioned before, there's non-self-subsistent particular things. So
those are mentally apprehended particulars.
They're not. How can they be mentally apprehended? Are you saying that
because they're created by an act of en theoria?
Do you know what qualitative being is again?
It would be like the summation of all like quiddity, hesedi, particularity, all of that. It would be the quality of a thing.
Well, yes, sort of. So it's more so determined as a characteristic property, or it's differing in numbering quality, but not by the whole. You believe that this occurs through the properties within Christ, correct?
What occurs within the properties within Christ? I didn't get your question there.
The definition I just gave for qualitative being.
Like, do we have two natural qualities? Is that what you're asking? St. Cyril says the distinction is in this and this only. The distinction in natural quality.
Yeah,
that's your question.
That's what qualitative being is.
Okay, so would you at least admit that your critique now applies to Cyril?
No, not at all. What are you talking about?
Because I just cited you, Cyril, for my answer. And
No,
you said, yeah.
no. Agen, you're not understanding the argument. I throw out quantitative.
I don't see one.
I actually made the argument very clear, and I'm going to break it down if you'd like let me speak for like a minute or so. Okay?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. The argument is very simple, okay? I brought up the fact that it's invoked in two different senses. You said temporally, not epistemologically. And then you said, oh, I asked you what epistemologically is. And then you said, oh, it's just in theoria. I asked you, how do you determine the difference between an individual, another individual, and the universe? You said, oh.
Through induction.
Okay. Right. No interrupting space. Anyways, yeah, so you said by an object of perception, the perception to the thing. So this really denotes that you observe the things and then you get the theory, or then you get the abstract. And then you can see whether they exist prior to the union as something which is concrete in reality.
What was my answer to the thing that you perceived? Did you remember?
Yes, you said that, oh, it can exist prior to the union as a particular, but not temporally. So not like prior to the union. That's what you said.
Yeah, epistemological. You know how we get to the fact of two epistemological hypostases? Do you know what we get that induction from? I can give you an example of what exactly is the grounding of reality from which we come to two hypostases. Because in the case of the eunomians, there's two types of epinoia. There's paranoia, which is like what eunomius would do. He's just making figments in his mind. For example, I conceive of a unicorn. That has no grounding in reality. I just made that up. And then there's also things you perceive in the mind that have grounding in reality.
That does actually, Agen.
Okay, a unicorn has a grounding in reality. I'm actually okay, whatever. Let me get to my main argument.
What an object.
So, the whole point is you can conceive of things in the mind by having a grounding in reality, and you can conceive of things in the mind by just making them up. The grounding in reality for how we come to know of two hypostases is the very fact that there's a precondition which implies it. That is, we notice within one nature two opposing sets of hypostatic properties. And because no homogeneous particular can ever... One sec, don't interrupt. Because we know no homogeneous particular can ever bear two sets of opposing properties, our mind knows it's a union of something plural. So it creates a plurality of hypostases in the mind without me having to come through induction by conceiving of two objects temporally. So that's why we don't have two metaphysical objects temporally. That's why your argument fails.
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. That didn't answer a single thing of what I was saying whatsoever.
I mean, you can claim that.
And just to clarify, what I meant by the unicorn existing in reality is I don't mean by like the actual like entity. I mean by the...
you think of a horse, you think of... Okay, I get you. Yeah, I know. Of course. Whatever.
So that's the objective intention. But anyways, so the point is, right, I'm just going to map this out like really, really easy. So then it's like better to understand, okay? So premise one, we understand the en theoria, or the distinction in theory by way of like an object of perception.
Yeah, and it's through the composite nature. That's the object of perception that gives us the information of two particulars.
No, I just want a yes or no question. I just want a yes or no.
Well, whenever you make like any syllogism, there could be sneaky premises that aren't listed. So that's why I'm clarifying.
I don't think like the...
It's kind of like for my safety, because I can say yes, and you're going to take that. So
whatever. Anyways, okay. Premise two. The things of which you conceive of have a basis within reality. If and
yes, within the composite nature's heterogeneity.
I didn't finish. 1 second. If and only if you are either combining, or actually, wait, no, I won't say that actually. Not combining. I mean, actually, no, I'll just go with it. If and only if these things, you come to know these things in theoria by reality, or you combine these two entities. Yeah, okay.
Only in the reality of the one nature that possesses opposing hypostatic properties.
Perfect. So it has a corresponding reality. Yes?
Yes, the one nature is the corresponding reality of the two hypostases in the mind.
Dude, I'm not talking... I think you're like...
I'm just clarifying. I know what you're asking.
I'm not even talking about the distinction between nature. Like, yeah, that's not even...
I'm just saying the thing that I get my inductive reasoning to come to know of the two hypostases It's the one composite nature itself that bears opposing hypostatic properties.
You think quantitative being exists in the mind, and you think qualitative being only exists in reality. That's fine.
Yeah, and the qualitative being in the one nature informs the quantitative being in the mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
It implies it. Okay, good.
That's not my argument. That's not my argument. I'm gonna get to
it. I'm just listing that because it's going to be important for your conclusion. Just keep going.
Well, I've kind of demonstrated that I already know what you've meant by repeating that.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. Anyways, 1 sec. Oops. Sorry. Okay. Premise three. These properties or the enumerated wholes either exist abstractly or concretely.
They exist in the mind, and the mind conceives them as concrete.
Either as the mind conceives them as concrete.
Yeah, insofar as we conceive particular predicates of it. An example would be like when we call the divine essence concrete, for example. It's not that you conceive it through induction in the material world. It's in some sense picked up by the mind, even though you call it concrete.
Well, I'd actually say that diversity lies within reality as well, but not in the sense. But anyways, that wasn't my point, right? So you don't believe that the numerical wholes, like a numerical whole of the human nature, is perceived in reality, correct?
The numerical whole you mean the hypostases of the human nature?
A numerical whole is just basically that which exists as the total summation of properties, and
so it's kind of like the primary substance. I'll just say it has grounding in reality, but it's not enumerated in reality.
How can it have grounding in reality when you say that it doesn't ever exist in reality, quantitative being?
Through the knowledge of two distinct hypostatic sets of properties existing in one nature would inform that.
You said, wait 1 sec, you said that qualitative being only exists, not quantitative. So how
yes.
can it ever? Right, so...
Because remember when I said the qualitative being informs the quantitative being that you perceive in the mind?
Right, so...
I can lead you through that again. Why that? Why
I don't need that led through. Right. So you said...
You said why, I'm just trying to answer.
I didn't say why, what?
Okay, you said whatever. Let's keep going.
I said right, but anyways. No. The contention here is that the numerical whole has no corresponding reality, meaning that it doesn't have a quantitative enumeration in reality and only exists by way of abstract. So what you said before is that it exists concretely is not true because it doesn't exist concretely as quantitative being.
You're presupposing that it needs another quantitative reference. I'm saying it's reference.
I didn't say that it needs. I didn't say any of that. I said that does it have a corresponding reality, which you said it does.
The corresponding reality is the one nature. No, the one nature informs you of the two hypostases.
No, it's 1 second. It's enumerated differently or separately in Theoria from the divine nature. Yes. Okay. So then it's corresponding.
Wait, what do you mean from the divine nature? What do you mean?
In Theoria, it's just distinguished separately.
Yeah, the two natures are distinguished in Theoria. Their correspondence in reality is the heterogeneity in the one nature.
This isn't going to get very far if you're questioning me on literally every single word that comes out of my mouth.
I'm not doing that. I'm just trying to
clarify. You are you need to actually engage instead of just questioning every single thing that comes out of my mouth. No, you're not.
On what? You're on what? Premise 3, premise 4? Keep going.
Premise 3. Well, I can't because the point of contention here is that there's no corresponding reality to a numerical whole of humanity. But
I told you, the corresponding reality that grounds the two hypostases in the mind is the fact that you notice opposing hypostatic properties in one nature.
Qualitative being, once again.
The qualitative being informs the quantitative being in the mind. I can demonstrate that.
Agen, I don't know why this is so contentious of a point. It's very simple. Is the quantitative...
I answered your point.
You did.
It has a referent in reality. Okay. It's not the referent that you want.
I didn't say... Listen. I didn't say that it didn't have a... I already said, everyone heard me say before, qualitative being has a referent reality from the quantitative being in Theoria. But
and other way around. The quantitative being in Theoria,
it's vice versa.
Its referent in reality is the qualitative. Yes.
Whatever.
Okay. Yeah. So it does have referent in reality. That answers your premise.
No, it doesn't answer my point. Everyone heard me say that the quantitative being is preserved in reality. The qualitative being is preserved in reality, but the quantitative doesn't have any corresponding reality.
It does. The corresponding reality is the one
No,
nature.
as a whole,
argument.
is there a whole of a human nature in reality? Enumerated
Does it have...
Enumerated separately.
Does it... Okay. Is there a divided referent in reality? No, there's not a division of reference.
Okay, so then it doesn't have a corresponding reality to its quantitative being in reality.
Yes, according to it being divided, in its mode of being divided.
Bro, like, it's really not that hard. Yes or no?
I answered. In the mode of its being divided, yes.
In its mode of being divided, yes. Okay, so that's quantitative being.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
You affirmed two quantities of being, right? Two beings?
Yeah. He already affirmed that.
Yeah, he affirmed it as well when he was talking to me, yeah.
No, it's okay because it's got on clip like what I said afterwards when I said being. And no one ever clarified, but anyways. And I clarified what I meant by it. So, anyways.
Beings, okay, that's good.
You believe two beings, bro. Okay, keep going.
Well, I mean, do you believe in one hypostasis, like according to earlier fathers, that like, for instance, Saint Jerome, I'm pretty sure, said that you could speak...
Letter 15. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so then why are you making it such a big deal that words can be equivocated on?
Because in Thomas ad Antiochenes, Saint Athanasius says there's a sense in which there's one hypostasis in God, a sense in which there's three. In the sense in which there's three, we affirm there's one of those in Christ. In the sense of the Ephesian development of the term hypostasis, it only has one referent. You affirmed two of those when I gave you the Cyrillian definition. You have two hypostases. Your syllogism failed to account for how you can get away with that.
Wait, listen. Everyone just heard what he said. He said that I'm just going to presuppose my definition of hypostases. Therefore,
I didn't. I gave you Cyril's definition, and Cyril's the co-presider of Ephesus. Therefore, you're an historian according to Ephesus.
And I'm here trying to prove that it's opposed in a manner of which it's co-referential. And all you're here doing is just questioning every single word that is uttered from it.
You never proved it.
But we are still going, and you just got off topic. Or
keep going. Sorry. Keep going. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, quantitative being doesn't have any corresponding reality, correct? No quantitative.
It doesn't have a corresponding divided reality, but it does have a corresponding reality.
Okay, I'll make this like yes or no.
I answered you. It doesn't have a corresponding divided reality. It has a corresponding reality, though.
I'm just gonna say yes or no, so it's very clear for the audience. Okay.
Okay.
Does quantitative being in the mind when it's enumerated to just yes or no, please, have a corresponding reality of that same thing in reality?
Yes and no in two different senses.
Okay. What's the second sense of which you say yes, or the first?
The first sense is that no in the divided sense, yes in the united sense.
Bro, that's literally like
you can ask for clarification if you think it's vague.
I know what you're saying. Like, that's literally just saying no. That's literally just saying no to my question. All you're saying is...
Well, it depends on the sense in which it's asked.
No,
that's why I said yes and no.
It's not even like... That didn't even make sense what you said, what?
Well, I can conceive in which you ask whether it has any reference in reality, to which I'd say yes. And then whether you ask if it has a divided reference in reality,
everyone heard me for the sixth time clarify what I meant by referent in reality, and then
everyone heard me clarify the two different senses, which sufficiently answers your sense.
You went back to qualitative being again.
Well, did I not sufficiently answer your question, giving the condition you gave?
No, but when I asked you the question yes or no, you said yes and no, two different senses, and then you went back.
Was one of those senses not an accurate representation of yours?
It was, and then the other just gave a redundant.
What are you complaining about?
Because the other because the other is just redundant nonsense to literally confuse the audience.
I'm not trying to confuse, I promise.
No, you are confusing the audience because you're literally being contentious upon every single word that's uttered out of my mouth, and you just did it then.
I'm not trying to be some evil guy. Like, I'm genuinely trying to clarify.
No, okay, whatever. Anyways, we're gonna proceed. Premise 5.
Okay, premise 5.
Yeah. Okay. Does species have its own whole?
It doesn't have its own particular whole.
Does it have a whole?
It's a common subject of predication. So if you take whole to mean possessing like the summation of its categorical properties, yeah. If you mean whole in the primary sense,
does it have quantitative being and qualitative being?
It can be if like, for example, you subdivide them into various species. There's a sense in which you say it's quantitatively distinct from others. If you're referring to in and of itself, it's a collection of properties predicated to a common subject of predication.
Actually, you just like affirmed yes, because you just said that the differentia is what distinguishes. So that's qualitative being between species, but the species exist numerically distinguished from one another in the genus. So
Yeah.
I'm going to proceed anyways.
Okay, that was a beautiful answer from me. Then why are you sad? Keep going.
I'm not sad. I just explained it for the audience.
Just keep going.
That's what I have to do every single time. But anyways, okay. So, is that premise 5 answered? Premise 6?
Yeah, premise 6.
Okay, premise 6. Prior to the union, is there some sort of corresponding reality of quantitative and qualitative being?
Temporally or epistemically?
It's both. It really doesn't matter. Wait, 1 second.
Well, they get two different answers. All right, we're just gonna wait.
Yeah. I feel like you guys are going back in circles. Like, why are you guys going back to the whole before the union, temporally speaking?
It's because he wants to vindicate himself from saying two hypostases. He has to do something.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I'm having fun. He's having fun, I think.
Yo.
What up, Apostolic Orthodoxy? Hey, wait, ain't that my YouTube channel? Who do you think you is, bro? When are you gonna start posting again, Egyptian Christian, on your YouTube?
You know, I've done many videos. Yeah, I need to start posting. I think, like, yeah, in the coming days, maybe in the weekend or something.
Tamam.
Yeah, bro.
So my father was a drinker and a fiend.
I'm gonna have to go in 7 minutes, by the way. But anyways, do you have an answer to the question?
We're on premise 5, remember?
Yeah, do you have an answer to the question? I think I asked you a question before.
No. The last question you asked, I answered.
What was the last
Maybe
question?
you asked it when you were on mute. It had to do with like the species, whether it's
no.
qualitative.
No,
that was the last thing you asked.
That wasn't my last thing I asked. I asked if the quantitative being and qualitative being of this particular has some sort of corresponding reality prior to the union.
Oh yeah, and then it depends on the sense in which you ask, epistemic or temporal.
Okay. Give us the answer of both.
Okay, perfect. So repeat your question just so I get where you're going with this one more time, so I can answer both senses, if you can. Yeah. Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yeah, sorry. When I go off the app, like, and you're unmuted, it like you can't speak until you're unmuted on me. But anyways, yes, my question is there like a corresponding reality for this qualitative being and quantitative being, in which suffices prior to the union?
Prior to the union, in the sense of any corresponding to reality temporally, the humanity doesn't exist for it to have any referent at all. Epistemically, it does have referent in reality because it's being informed after your conception of the composite object. So the quantitative being present in the one nature informs you of the quantitative being epistemically, but temporally there is no referent in reality because there is no human nature in reality.
So you just affirmed the distinction between hypostases in the mind. That here's the distinction that's going to occur prior to the union. You just said that something of which, for instance, like the human nature, which you derive from an objective perception, it has no qualitative being and quantitative being corresponding to reality prior to the union. 1 second.
Epistemically.
Sorry?
Epistemically, it does. You only conceive of the humanity epistemically prior to the union.
Is there a... Yeah, no. This is my point. One lacks a corresponding reality in which the humanity...
It doesn't. It doesn't, because there is no human nature.
Does the quality of a human nature exist in reality or just in the abstract prior to the union?
prior to the union temporally or epistemically?
Agen. Okay, this is going to be like very simple. Okay, you said epistemically.
It is.
Yeah, it's going to be very simple. You said prior to the union, there's a grounding relation in which epistemically, there's a grounding relation in which one gives an explanatory account of the other. So yeah, okay.
There is no one another in the temporal sense. Why? Because the human nature doesn't even exist for it to have a corresponding in reality.
Perfect. And if the consequent lacks an explanatory power, it cannot be understood and therefore should be disregarded, correct?
It doesn't exist. Like it literally doesn't exist. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
I'm not talking about temporally.
It doesn't exist.
I'm not
temporally. It doesn't exist. Epistemically, it does have.
Everyone heard me just say this. Okay, I'm not talking
Forget
about
this whole everyone thing. Just speak to me. Epistemically, it has grounding in reality. Temporally, it doesn't exist for me to answer yes.
Do you know what a grounding relation is?
If it has some sort of foundation in the object.
Well, it's just really that something gives an explanatory account of another, like prior.
Okay, that's a foundation, yes.
Yeah, okay. So you said that epistemically, that which exists. Okay, I'm just gonna speak without you just interrupting me every 5 seconds.
I'm clarifying. Epistemically, it does have grounding in reality. Temporally, it doesn't exist.
Okay, but when I say
yes,
Agen, you really need to stop wasting my time because I actually have to go soon. So we can finish that.
I'm actually speeding up your time. I know where you're going.
You're not speeding up my time, and you definitely don't know where I'm going because you just affirmed something very, very silly. Okay, so
I did.
Yeah, you did absolutely.
So what I've been saying for the past 30 minutes. So you should have called my silliness beforehand.
No. Go ahead. No. Unfortunately, I couldn't call it beforehand because we didn't even get to this point because all you did was question. Now we got to this point because finally I was able to speed this up without you questioning every single thing I say. Okay, you said that epistemically there's a grounding relation in which we account for the thing in theoria, right?
Yeah. So, the en theoria is grounded in reality.
So the grounding relation, for one, is really posterior to the union, correct? The antecedent for the grounding relation, correct?
Yeah.
And one lacks that, correct?
What do you mean one lacks that? There is no human nature for me to say it lacks it.
No, I'm not talking about the human nature. I'm saying one lacks the thing in which you would require something posterior to the union, the antecedent, to define the consequent. For instance, the divine nature or the divine logos has a grounding relation prior to the union, whereas the other doesn't. Therefore, that's the distinction. The explanatory.
Again, temporally, there is no human nature. Epistemically, it does have grounding in reality.
You agreed that for an epistemic account, there's something which we have a grounding relation where the antecedent gives explanatory power to entheoria. Here's the distinction. Here's the distinction between the two hypostases then. The antecedent is posterior to the union and gives an epistemic account entheoria, but temporally that is a phasal property, okay? I've distinguished posterior. The next is that the consequent, the other antecedent is prior to the union and also gives an account prior to the union for the very thing itself, for the individual.
Again, the human nature prior to the union, in the epistemic sense, it doesn't mean prior as in
we're talking about the knowledge.
I'm going to answer one sec. I know what you said. When it comes to the human nature, when we conceive of the heterogeneous properties within the one nature, that informs me of a referential object in my mind. The entheoria is grounded in some reality. You're confusing and mismatching the temporal part and the epistemological part. And when it comes to the temporal part of the divine Godhead, of course, God the Word is going to have some actual numerical reference. But I still answered, the human hypostasis conceived in the mind is grounded in reality through the qualitative being present within the one nature. So it still has grounding in reality. It doesn't lack grounding in reality.
Agen. You agree that epistemology relates to the obtaining of any sort of knowledge within reality, right?
Yes.
Or propositions, truth, blah, 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 correct? Yeah.
Within reality, exactly. That's the most important part. Within reality.
Perfect. And the distinction he's making here is that which exists in reality is going to be the temporal fact of the thing, and that which exists within the abstract is going to be the epistemic thing or whatever, right? But what I'm saying is regardless, this thing has...
I don't remember saying that, but I'll let you continue. I don't remember saying that.
This is a implicit statement.
You probably misunderstood my entire point.
Well, you're free to quote me just right then and show me what I said wrong. Would you like to do that?
Well, if you
No,
repeat
that's
it,
what I
I'll
thought.
show you. I
That's
kind of,
what I
I
thought.
kind of forgot it. What do you mean? That's what I thought. When I heard you say it, I don't remember saying any of that. But because I don't remember saying any of that, I didn't connect it to any concept in my mind for
Okay,
me to remember. It's like
okay,
this isn't a
so you
point
weren't
prover.
even
If you want to
listening.
repeat, you can repeat.
So you weren't even
I was
listening.
listening. I was listening.
No, no,
It's
no.
just I never said any of
Okay, so
that,
what
so I
did I
kind of
say?
forgot
What's the
it.
point of what I said?
Again, I never connected it to any object in my mind, so
it
because
doesn't
it
matter
wasn't
what you
related.
said prior. What did I say? Did you
Again,
retain any of the? Did you retain any of the contents besides you not saying it? Me saying
No,
that you said
it was
something.
a total. It
Okay,
was
so
a
you
total
weren't
straw
listening.
man, unrelated. No, I did listen. It was
If
a
it's a
total
straw
straw
man,
man,
then what did I say?
unrelated. It was a total straw man, and that's why I forgot it. What's so funny?
Okay,
It's pretty simple.
It's not simple because you're literally just saying you only said, "Oh well, all Wayne said was that I said it, and then that's all I focused on, and I didn't retain any of the
Why would I
context."
retain? Why would I retain a word salad that it's a complete straw man to my
How's it a
position?
word salad?
Again, would you like to repeat it? I'll show you. If you repeat it, I'll show you.
Wait, that presupposes already that you know it is. So how's it a word
Well,
salad?
what I do remember is that when I heard it, it was a word salad. That's why if you repeat it, I'll showcase it again. But you don't want to repeat it because you know it was a straw man. That's why you're playing this game.
No. I just want everyone to like.
So what stops you? What stops you from repeating?
I'm gonna repeat it.
Okay, then go ahead.
Okay. So I was saying that basically, what we obtain within like some sort of like epistemological account. Actually, I won't repeat the entire thing. I'll just repeat the part that you missed or whatever. But you answered the question and you said, well, I said, you agree that epistemology relates to obtaining like knowledge propositions that are truth apt and blah blah blah.
Blah 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 blah. Now you know why I don't remember what you say.
No,
blah 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 is incoherent.
Blah 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 is what you said. Okay, but anyways.
No, I didn't.
you never. Yeah, no. You
say blah 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 blah.
Are you mentally inept that you can't put together?
I promise you
that you're yapping.
I didn't say blah 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 blah.
Don't worry, Agen. I'm saying that you were yapping.
Don't worry.
Yes.
Oh, so my blah 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 was metaphorical. I didn't really say it.
Oh, are you mentally inept not to put it together?
You're the one who said that. You said blah 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 blah. I tell you, I didn't say that.
Right. So, are you mentally inept that you can't put it together? That it's not actually being taken.
Why are you so grumpy, bro? Okay, we get it. You misspoke when you said that I said blah blah blah.
Is this like the best graduate from Orthodox Christianity Discord server?
Keep like throwing these insults when I love you, my dear friend.
You're just insulting now. And
is this like the best? Anyways, we're gonna proceed because you can't like track.
I hope you know I love you from the bottom of my heart, and all you can do is throw insults.
Okay, well, you were actually basically doing the same thing, but I'm not going to accuse you. Anyways.
I'm not.
Ad hominems. That weakens your point. Yeah, and please answer Agen's point. So.
Agen didn't have a point because he wasn't listening. So Fanatic Coptic
I made a lot of points. And then you said something that was a straw man. I said I didn't say that. You said, can you repeat it? So I did make a point. What we're talking about.
Well, I actually said that it was implicit.
Whether you accurately represented my point.
I actually said that it was implicit of what you said. I never said it was explicit. And you said that it wasn't an accurate representation, and then I said how it was an accurate representation.
I asked for you to repeat it so I can demonstrate to you why it wasn't.
And I
didn't
was,
retain that information
and I was,
because it was
and I was. Listen, and I was.
You said blah 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 blah, right? You were until you said blah blah blah.
Because you want to do like this shitty rhetoric where you say act like mentally inept and say, oh well, no, that's not what I literally said.
Stop insulting. No, you're the one who said you said blah 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 blah. I said when you said blah 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 blah, it doesn't tell me what you're trying to showcase in your argument because blah 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 doesn't mean anything.
Anyways, like, can we proceed? Because I'm not gonna stay for.
I'd love to. Stop insulting so we can proceed.
Okay. Anyways, okay. So my question is basically actually I'll just repeat what you said so you can answer it. Actually, do you just want to proceed so we don't have to go?
Let's proceed. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, so basically my point is that obviously there's like a grounding relation between these two things, right? And my point is that the thing of which you say is gained within the mind, which is like epistemically, has a grounding relation for its explanatory account within reality, which is going
in the one nature, yeah.
Can I just like speak without you?
I'm just clarifying. I'm just answering. Yeah, I'm continuing your point. It does have grounding reality within the one nature. Keep going.
I'll ask you a question like when I need you to answer it. Anyways, yeah. So the distinction between the hypostases then is going to be by the grounding relation, in which we would say that one is prior and existing by the manner of which we understand it has an explanatory account and the other isn't.
In the case of temporal, the human hypostasis never existed temporally before the union. It only exists epistemologically before the union. And the epistemological before the union has its grounding.
Can the abstract exist without the grounding relation, or the antecedent of the grounding relation?
What do you mean the abstract? You mean the human hypostasis I'm conceiving?
Okay, I define the grounding relation. Okay, a grounding relation is where the antecedent gives an.
I know.
Okay.
I'm saying the human hypostasis. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
The human hypostasis is informed by induction. In the case of induction, what I'm doing is I see the composite object before me, and when I see this composite object, I locate various hypostatic predicates. And because I locate various hypostatic predicates,
I don't need to know that.
Let me answer.
It's irrelevant. It's literally irrelevant.
It's totally irrelevant.
No,
it's totally irrelevant.
It's completely irrelevant.
Because I'm giving you the formal account for how I know that there's an actual grounding relation between the human hypostasis and theory and reality.
It's so simple. All you have to say is
totally irrelevant.
All you have to say is reality, because that's what epistemology is.
I'm giving you the formal account of how I got it in reality, because that's where your question is going.
Listen,
the formal account for how I conceive of the human hypostasis is because I conceive of a human hypostatic property in the incarnate world. Is that my problem? I don't do flipping burger apologetics. I answer with actual zeal and love for the fathers.
No, you don't. You don't, because everything you said prior necessarily follows. You're just saying stuff. You're just saying stuff.
I'm going to answer. Whether you have to go or not, I'm going to answer with the zeal of the Father.
It's a P and a P. Answer this. Does the antecedent require, or does the consequent require the antecedent to exist? Yes or no?
Again, when you apply...
Yes or no? Does the antecedent require the consequent? Does the consequent require the antecedent to exist? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no?
When you say antecedent and consequent, you're implying some sort of temporality, where I'm showing you antecedent and consequent is flipped backwards through induction.
Is the consequent in the mind or not?
It's flipped when you're applying induction.
Oh my god! Is the consequent in the mind or not?
In induction, you start with the thing in reality. The antecedent
is the induction. The consequent is the mind. Does the consequent exist without the antecedent?
The consequent needs the antecedent of the induction.
Perfect. So there's your distinction prior to the union. Then one requires, as a phasal property, the antecedent in reality, which the other does have, and
because it's flipped. It's flipped. The antecedent in reality for the divine hypostasis is temporal. The antecedent in reality for the human hypostasis is inductive, and then flipped over.
Agen. What's the antecedent and the consequent?
In the case of the temporal case of the word, or the epistemological case of the flesh? Answer that.
They're both grounding relations, meaning one gives an explanatory account to the other. Well, one second. One second. We're going to show how idiotic you are, because prior you literally admitted.
Stop.
You said that in reality we know what is in the mind. Hence, as an explanatory account of reality to the mind. Hence, the antecedent is going to be that which exists in reality, and the consequent is going to be that which exists in abstract. Hence, the distinction between prior to the union is that one has the antecedent, the other doesn't have the antecedent. The latter doesn't have the antecedent.
They do. Both of them have, but in two different senses.
Okay, so Agen just admitted he's an historian. Agen just admitted he's an historian.
You're trying to straw man because I gave you two senses. One is through induction, one is through temporality. One is through induction, one is through temporality.
You're so embarrassing.
Stop freaking out. When I give you the answer, you start manifesting.
Why do you hide in yourself? No, you don't.
When it gets exposed, you start freaking out. This is why I took my time answering.
Exposed by what? By your philosophically illiterate stuff. You didn't answer a single question.
Be quiet and watch.
No one's going to be quiet. Answer the question.
No reason you're interrupting.
He answered all your questions, okay? Yeah.
He didn't answer any of my questions. He just said, it depends on the sense. It depends on the sense. Oh my God.
Right when your argument gets...
Answer the question.
Your argument gets busted,
does the consequent require an antecedent?
Stop. Be a grown man.
Is that what you're hiding in your Discord self?
Right when I bust your argument, you freak out. Stop. I'm going to answer you. They have consequent and reality in two different senses. The flesh through induction, the word through temporality. The antecedent is the flesh has temporal subsistence, and it grounds it in the incarnate word. For the flesh, it has inductive knowledge. Through inductive knowledge, you conceive of the one object, and then the consequent is knowing the flesh and theoria. So they both have a consequent in two different senses. It's not two temporal consequents. It's one epistemological consequent and one temporal consequent. That's why it doesn't resolve in Nestorianism.
Agen thinks I'm
talking resolve in Sepi Epinoia.
He thinks I'm talking about
laughing.
You think I'm talking about psychology. You think I'm talking about psychology.
Stop laughing. You made a fool of yourself.
That's how behind you are. That's how behind you are.
Like a grown man. I haven't insulted you once. I've given you logic.
You have the entire time, and we're gonna see this when it's uploaded on YouTube. Don't worry.
Okay. No worries. You affirm two hypostases. That's why you're in this mess. That's why you're freaking out.
You affirm two
now
hypostases
answer with
in the
logic
different
and
sense as
reasoning.
well. GG's,
when you affirm
GG's.
two hypostases, that's going to be uploaded, and two beings, two hypostases. That all of that.
Again,
yeah, we have it recorded.
again, you're the one. I'm trying to show
It's
you love. I
affirmed
don't
in
even want to
different
clip you.
sentences. What?
I'm trying to show you love because I love you and I want you to understand this. You're trying to get a clip and you're in this mess doing this little laughing
Don't
stuff
worry,
and throwing ad hominem.
we have all of this on recording and it's all going on YouTube by tonight.
Answer with logic and reasoning. I gave you my response.
I have. You have no reasoning because you say that a consequent can exist without an antecedent. Okay?
I didn't say that.
It's as simple as that.
I didn't say that. I gave you two senses.
You
one to induction,
definitely
one to
said it.
temporality.
No. The sense you gave it is a physical matter obtaining it. So literally like psychology. Like what?
I didn't say I didn't mention any psychology.
Because there's things that are implicit and explicit, Agen. Your position necessarily entails to what I just said.
Answer my objection.
Okay, so your objection is nonsensical because the concepts still rely on an object of perception. Because, like I mentioned before, that particulars are distinguished from the universal if and only if there's two particulars. These are obtained by an object of... You're interrupting me and you want me to respond,
right? A grounding of reality.
You're wanting me to respond. Here, don't be a hypocrite like you just said I was interrupting you.
Okay? Go ahead.
Right. Have some respect, okay? Even if I'm lacking it, don't act like a hypocrite because you were just reprimanding me on it. Okay, great. So all that I said is, or actually what you said is that you said that basically there's two different senses in which it's invoked. The temporal sense, in which is just like the known perception from the onlooker, and then the metaphysical or epistemological sense, which is just basically the concepts existing standalone or existing within the abstract.
You misconstrued my objection. No, that wasn't my two senses. My two senses is that the reference for the words hypostases is that he had temporal self-subsistence before the union. And then the reference for the human hypostases is through an inductive consequent and antecedent. The inductive consequent and antecedent is that there's the antecedent of the one nature as perceived through the eyes of the soul. I come to see this heterogeneous... Stop laughing. I come to see this heterogeneous object, and then I'm informed with the antecedent of a human hypostasis epistemologically. And then the temporal antecedent for the union is that the divine hypostasis had temporal subsistence. So that's the two senses. One is through an inductive consequent and antecedent. The other is through a temporal consequent and antecedent.
One second. Okay. That's fine, right? So all I want you to do is just repeat the epistemological thing so we have it all in recording. Just that. I don't want the temporal sense, just the epistemological.
One sec, I have one bar of internet. Do you hear me?
Okay, we can
you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Who is this Asian chick next to me?
Y'all hear me? I still have one bar.
Maybe Agen, we'll wait until you have the full signal. Yeah, now you're good. Now you have the full signal.
Okay, anyways, all I want you to do is...
me to repeat, my friend?
No. All I want you to repeat is just the one statement about what determines and like the sense of induction, which we just like so it's very clear for everyone. Just the one sense of epistemological, like knowledge obtainments. That's all I want.
In the case of epistemological reference in reality, see the one is very predicate. So you first start taking the product of the union, and
you're lagging so badly.
Epistemological human hypostases. Did my answer go through at least? Did you guys get my answer?
You were like cutting out every 2 seconds. Can you repeat?
All right.
No, go ahead.
In the inductive sense, you conceive of the incarnate word in reality. You see various hypostatic properties. And after that, you conceive in your mind, based on the object in reality of the one incarnate nature, a human hypostasis based on the presence of human hypostatic properties.
Okay. Can you mute now? I'm just gonna say my last like minute thing, and then that's it. I'm gonna go because I have to go eat dinner now because it's 8 p.m. Can you like mute just in case of interruptions? Yeah, perfect. So Agen said that I was misconstruing his position, and I absolutely didn't because I repeated before, and we've all got this on clip, that I said that the antecedent is going to be the thing of which you perceive in reality, which he just said. We all got him on recording saying that. And then the consequence of that is going to be the concepts that exist standalone with a corresponding reality, okay? Now, My point is that the distinction between the two in this epistemological sense in the induction is that one thereof lacks prior to the union because there's no concrete of the antecedent prior to the union, whereas there is a concrete prior to the union for the for the former hypostasis, which is the divine hypostasis. Now, Agen can't get out of this because we all heard him himself say that it's twofold in the manner of which it has a corresponding reality, which is the antecedent, and the manner of which it has a consequent, which is the abstract. Now, he cannot deny this because the consequent is affirmed by the antecedent, and you cannot deny the antecedent. Now, if you cannot deny the antecedent, then the antecedent serves as that which corresponds in reality. If it is the case that that which corresponds in reality exists prior to the union, then therefore necessarily the case it is that which exists in concept prior to the union. Now, Agen has no justification for why the concrete exists prior to the union, but only posterior to the union, and it would have no concrete existence prior to the union, temporally or epistemologically in this grounding relation, whereas the other hypostasis does. Hence, Agen himself just reduced epistemological to temporal in a sense, and also he just proved that there's two definitions of hypostasis in which it is used co-referentially in the third anathema, and every single time St. Cyril says it, when one prior to the union has the antecedent, which has a corresponding reality, in which gives an explanatory framework to the consequent, and then the other, which lacks thereof, and we can only conceive of it at the moment of the objective perception, in which its corresponding reality only exists posterior to the union, and then we can show that it's sort of phasally existing in the mind. Anyways, I'm gonna go now, so...
Can I go now, or are you just gonna leave and run away?
Go ahead, Agen. It's Agen's turn now.
How are you gonna say that's running away when I've literally said like a million times that I have to go and then
You're
it's...
not waiting until Agen responds. Agen should have... Yeah.
Bro, but if he responds, then I'm gonna
leave.
Have to, okay, fine,
Just
fine.
leave. Just leave. If you want.
No. Hey, listen. I'll stay up for you responding. Then when you're finished responding, I'm gonna leave. Okay.
Okay. Very easy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Even though there's literally no reason to do that. But anyways.
Okay. All right. Very easy. The mistake is that you're trying to basically make temporal and epistemological the exact same mental reference. The way that we apply antecedent and consequent in the temporal sense for the divine hypostases is one way, and the way we apply it in the human hypostases is another. There's two senses of the phrase before the union. There's the temporal sense of the phrase before the union, where you believe of something that actually existed in a time period, which in this case would be the word who pre-exists the union. And then there's the epistemological sense of before the union, where your mind conceives of something as a consequent of observing the union itself in reality. You'll find this in St. Basil's Against Eunomius, Book 1, Chapter 20, where he explains that epinoia is first seeing the object itself and then locating various information about it. This is the epistemology we apply to the before the union and after the union statements for the human hypostasis. The human hypostasis itself never had its own temporal existence for us to say it has the same referential value as God the Word. It only has an epistemological grounding in reality. When we see the one incarnate nature of the Word, we see that it has various hypostatic predicates. It has various predicates of particularity, aseity, quiddity, essential properties, and hypostatic properties. Hypostatic properties inform us that this must have been some type of union, because no universal can instantiate for itself heterogeneous hypostases. It only instantiates for itself a homogeneous hypostasis. With this in mind, when we locate various hypostatic properties within the one incarnate nature of the Word, it informs us of a human hypostasis picked up in the mind. He is getting picky on the word before the union because he thinks that that statement has temporal baggage. But we conceive of the human hypostasis after conceiving of the incarnate Word, and that's what we mean by human hypostasis before the union. So it's still the consequent of the antecedent of the incarnate Word. This is not the same sense we apply to God the Word having a referent in reality. In the case of God the Word, we don't conceive of his referent in reality through conceiving of the union and then conceiving of the object. We conceive of the divine hypostases in reality because we know that the referent itself had temporal subsistence before the union. So the distinguishment between temporal before the union and epistemological before the union is how we avoid counting two hypostases. Hypostases in the Ephesian sense was never co-referential. If you study the development of the term hypostases in the Nicene controversy, hypostases in the Creed of Nicaea picked out the universal. By the time of Pope Damasus and St. Jerome, in his letter 15, he explains how he does not want to speak of three hypostases, i.e. individual substances. Through time, this term developed to the Ephesian sense, where in St. Cyril's Dialogues on the Trinity, he explains that the term hypostases is the common, is the thing which is predicated of the common and spoken of. With this in mind, my friend here, Wayne, already said that he believes in two of those with that definition I listed from St. Cyril, and already affirmed two beings in Christ at the very beginning. That's why he stuck with the syllogism, and he's tried to get away out of it, but he failed, which is why he tried to collapse the temporal sense with the epistemological sense. And it's why today he got buried as an Nestorian by the grace of God. You saw him insulting, you saw me citing the fathers and showing zeal. You can leave now.
Yeah, you definitely did that. All right. Good job, Nestorian Mixer. See you. God bless you.